A big part of getting laid is logistics, right? Like if you have a bedroom right by the club, like before the night was over, I'd already banged 3 chicks, you know what I'm saying? And it was like, but the logistics were solved. I looked at going out as like, what do I want to accomplish and how am I gonna do it, right? Like when I went out, my goal was to get pussy. That was it. I didn't want to fucking dance. I didn't want to talk to my friends with fucking earplugs in and pay $10,000 to fucking do it. I went out to get pussy. That was the reason I went out. By flipping the script and getting girls to chase you, I mean, that's, you know, the premise of the setup is, you know, just turning it around on its head, because when a woman is chasing you, you have the power.
You saw Tate and you're like, okay, I kind of like his vibe and was talking to him. Not that he's trying to be like you, but.
Well, Tate's a very different guy. I don't think he's trying to be like me, actually. He's kind of got his own thing. I don't care if I agree with you or not. I respect somebody that takes a fucking controversial opinion and runs with it and doesn't apologize.
You know, for a while, every tech company, everything out there was promoting that one narrative, and like literally you could get dropped if you went against that.
And I watch way too many fucking people bend the knee. Like Joe Rogan apologized, like what a fucking joke.
You didn't think he should have apologized or did the wrong thing there?
Fuck no. What a fucking pussy.
What do you think the message is of this book? What do you think your message is at the end of the day?
I think the most important message is the difference between pleasure and happiness. There is an end to the pleasure road. Most people don't ever get near it, but I actually got to the end of the road. I mean, it's gonna be some fucking good time, but at the end of the day, I don't think that that's what people should focus on.
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs. Sharing our vulnerability. Overcoming our fears. Transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go?
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is...
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Dan Bilzerian, the professional poker player, businessman, entrepreneur, author, and one of the world's most influential people on social media. After being discharged from the military following a 4-year service and 2 Navy SEAL Hell Weeks, you attended the University of Florida, where you spent time learning to gamble. You then entered the World Series of Poker in 2009, became a full-time professional, and one of the most recognizable players on the circuit, soon amassing a huge fortune. With over 44 million followers on social media, you're known as the king of Instagram, thanks to your regular updates featuring your lavish lifestyle, excessive partying, and bikini-clad models. Today, you're the founder and CEO of the Ignite Cannabis Company, and your new book, The Setup, is a no-holds-barred memoir that lifts the lid on your remarkable rise to global stardom and reveals your unique philosophy on life that has helped you achieve money, fame, and a lifestyle that most can only dream of. Dan, welcome back to London Real.
Thank you, brother. That was a good build-up.
We did this.
You have to introduce me to chicks from now on.
Right? I know. I should be part of the setup. We'll talk about that at some point. We did this in London 3 years ago when you came, I think, to introduce Ignite to the UK audience. We sat in a hotel room, and the episode, you know, it blew up. I mean, some of your clips are some of our most watched ever. I think Don't Chase Women is like 4 million plus. And, you know, this book is even more interesting because, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, Dan, but you're probably one of the more misunderstood guys out there on the internet. And I'm wondering, first of all, do you believe that's true? And second of all, is that why you wrote this book? Because as people dive into your story, they start to realize that you're not what they think you were, that you had a childhood a lot like a lot of guys that wasn't all glamorous, and that it starts to make sense a little bit more of your decisions. So I'm wondering, why did you write the book? To set the record straight. And lastly, what was the process like of writing the book? I mean, you and I have been DMing for a couple of years, and I think at one point you told me it was like the hardest thing you've ever done, which says a lot after, you know, SEAL training. But tell me, Why write this? Why do it now?
Man, that was a lot of questions. So first of all, misunderstood is probably the number one adjective I would use to describe me. I kind of lead with my worst, and I don't really, usually talk about any of the good stuff. I feel like I, give people a highlight reel of my life, and that gives them a certain perception of who I am. And I'm okay with that. I kind of, throughout my poker career, I had a similar thing where, I had to kind of like play a role in order to get into a lot of these private games. And so I'm used to, people misunderstanding me, thinking that I'm, a different guy than I am. So I don't know. I wrote the book really kind of, partially to set the record straight. That was one of the things. I'd been meaning to do it for a while. I'd actually written one in 2016 or worked with a ghostwriter to do it. And I was working out with David Goggins during quarantine, and I read his book, and he was telling me about that whole process. And it just, it motivated me to just get off my fucking ass and just do it. And so I wrote the entire book myself. I did all the edits except for one by myself. It's 36 edits I did. And the original book was 708 pages. And I'm not a writer. I'm not a reader. I don't do that shit. And it was honestly the hardest project I've ever taken on. I mean, it was just, I had to cut my workout short. I mean, every hour that I spent in the gym, I felt like was hours that I didn't have being 100% mentally focused. And when I wasn't 100% mentally focused, sometimes I would do work or edits that would actually bring me backwards. And writer's block's a real thing. I mean, it's just, it was a fucking process, man. And it also forces you to like look at your life and the mistakes that you've made, and where decisions have led you. It's kind of like a long therapy session. And then in order to write it, I mean, I wrote enough embarrassing shit in there. You have to really dive into stuff like, getting caught jerking off. That was a story that I thought I'd be taken to my grave. Nobody knew about that. I didn't ever obviously talk about it, but I figured, fuck it. If I'm gonna write the book and I'm gonna tell all the good, you got to have the bad with the good, and you got to, for people to really know me, they have to understand like a lot of what's happened in my life that I think sent me on the trajectory that I went on. And, the childhood was the foundation for that. And you can see, it's almost like, I feel like this could be like a psychological study almost, if you look at like the things that have happened and then the motivations going forward and how that impacted my life, and the things that I basically perceived, no matter how much, how many girls I had or whatever, I always had a perceived lack there just due to, kind of like how I came up. And so it was probably one of the better things that I did. I would never want to fucking do it again. I don't think anybody ever writes their own book. They all get celebrities, they just all get their own ghostwriters. Nobody does their own book. I mean, it's just not really a thing, but I knew that if I wanted to have my voice, and I have a very specific voice, that I had to do it myself, and you read the book. So, I'm pretty self-deprecating. I'm pretty honest. It's really raw. And, the good is the good in the sense of like the hedonistic, like pleasure seeking stuff is far beyond what, any guy probably ever dreams of achieving. And then the shitty stuff is probably worse than anybody ever would be willing to endure. So it's accurate. It's like my whole life has been, man, a big roller coaster, the super high highs and the super low lows. And honestly, I probably wouldn't have it any other way,
Yeah. Yeah. And people can tell when you've written it. They can ultimately tell. And so this is clearly you. But to do that, it's a lot of hard work. And I think I had Tim Ferriss in here, author of the 4-Hour Work Week, and he said it's the loneliest job in the world, writing a book, because in some ways you're all alone, like you said, with your thoughts and your past, and you're struggling to try to articulate the truth, and it's just you, right? No one can really help you write that thing.
Well, I think there's another factor that people don't consider, and that's when you're editing, the book just never, ever feels like it's done.
Right.
I think it was like literally going to hell. You write this thing, and then you think you're done, and then you edit it, and then you think you're done, and every time it's just, man, you always feel like you can write something better, you can say something better, and then you start chopping things up, and it's just, it's a never ending battle, it seems like. And so, yeah, I just fucking just did it until I felt like I really couldn't make it any better. And I wrote the whole book in 6 months. I like literally locked myself in the house. I would work 8 to 10 hours straight, sleep for 2 hours, get back. Because I felt like there was a limited amount of like productive hours, no matter how much I slept or whatever. And so I found that doing small naps and then just writing until I couldn't write and then napping again was better than trying to get like a, 6 or 7 hour block of sleep. So yeah, I wrote the whole thing in about, I think it was probably about 6 months. And then I edited it then for like a year and a half after that. So the editing process was probably like the most brutal, I would say.
Yeah. They say writing is rewriting. And that's what makes it good, though, is when you edit it down. You mentioned Goggins. He was here a few years ago, and he was telling me how he had all these people that were going to help him with the book, and he fired one guy and fired the next guy and fired the next guy. And then he obviously created a great piece of work, that really embodies who he is. And so now it makes sense, if you're training with him and you get to see what he produced and you're thinking, wait, maybe I can jump in here. And the foreword's done by David Goggins, which honestly, you two seem like the odd couple. I don't know if anybody remembers that old show on TV where there's two guys. Okay, you both went through SEAL training, but otherwise you guys seem to be very different guys. But obviously you guys are friends. So how did that happen? And how are you guys friends? Hey, it's Brian Rose, founder of the DeFi Academy. I've told you my 4-week crypto bootcamp is amazing, but don't take my word for it. This is what my students are saying.
The DeFi Academy was an amazing experience for me. It took me totally out of my comfort zone.
In this course, I was challenged, I was held accountable, and pushed to do things that honestly weren't always easy.
It's been phenomenal, and I can't believe we're already up on our 4 weeks. It has flown by.
Going through this DeFi accelerator by far was one of the best courses I've taken.
You do this course, you really get into the nitty-gritty of the activities that will make you comfortable with decentralized finance.
Thank you so much to Brian and everyone at London Real and the DeFi Academy for even putting together an amazing course like this.
Anybody else that wants to do it, please sign up. It is well worth the money.
So I came up to him in 2007 in a Ferrari dealership at the Wynn. We were both window shopping. And at the time I'd been following him. It was just YouTube shit at the time. They didn't really have any social media back then. And I'd seen that he had ran, it was like 204 miles. He had ran further than a Suburban could go on a tank of gas in 24 hours. And I was just kind of fascinated with that. I was always, pushing my body and doing crazy stuff. And I'd, done the, 510 days of SEAL training and half Ironman and stuff like that. And then I'd been in the, the weightlifting side. So I'd done all that. And I looked at this guy and I'm just like, damn, this fucking dude's a beast. Cause he wasn't doing it like a scrawny Ethiopian. Like this dude was like 220 jacked and fucking running ultras, which is just unheard of. And so, yeah, I went up to him and, told him I was a fan, whatever, talked to him for a few minutes, no big deal. And then flash forward, we're at a UFC fight. I think this was 2017 or 18 maybe. And I went up to him again and I said something about like, hey, I'd met you prior. I forget what the fuck I said. Just something. I just said hi to him. Big respect, whatever.
You're hitting on David Goggins, basically. You're hitting on him.
I was basically a fanboy, and just tell him, look, I'm big fan, love your work, whatever. I don't normally do that, man. He was probably like, of all the guys in the world that I could have met, like he was probably top of the list, right? So, yeah. So just whatever. Went up to him, said something, short. Didn't ask for a picture, and they just talked to him real quick and left. Anyways, he was sitting next to Joe Rogan, and I guess like some people came up to him or whatever, and was like, who the fuck that guy is, blah blah blah, and then they gave him like a full bio on me. And I think he came back up to me, or he DM'd me, or there was some sort of communication there, and then we chatted a few times, and then I don't think we hung out. We just talked a few times, and then quarantine hit, and I had this, big gym in my house, and he was living in Vegas, and so we connected again. I think, I just can't remember how. Maybe he hit me up, or I hit him up, or whatever it was, or maybe I read his book. I forget what it was, but anyways, we reconnected, started working out, and he was just telling me about his book and how well it did, and I read it, and I was impressed, and I felt like we had done a lot of the same things. We are very different. He's got one girlfriend that he barely sleeps with because he's training 24/7, and he's, self-admittedly has, low sex drive, obviously, because that's what happens when you train like a fucking animal. And he's not taking any testosterone, and, whatever. And I am taking testosterone, and I do fuck all the time. Like, women are a big focus. And so it's like, yeah, we've got really, really opposite motivations, but what we share is like a drive, like an unparalleled drive to get what we want. And I think a lot of it's driven through like previous insecurity that we've then turned into fuel to get what we want and just run through fucking walls. We have got, some similar background in the SEAL training. I think he and I probably went through more SEAL training than almost any Navy SEAL. So he did 3 hell weeks. I think I did more days of training than him, but I think he definitely did more hell weeks. He did 3, I did 2. So
yeah, but he says in the book that he says for both him and you, it's the insecurities that were the fuel that drove you both forward. And we're going to jump into this with your childhood, but he also says, what makes the world unique are people who are willing to go against the grain and say the things that no one else is willing to say. And that's both you and David. And so, again, I saw him on your jet, I think a year or 2 years ago, and I was like, oh, that's weird. But then now that you talk about it, it makes sense, because you guys have a lot of commonalities. But of course, no one knew about your childhood until this book. So, it answers a lot of questions. And so I think it's time for me as your psychologist to get you to sit back on the sofa as we go into your childhood, because it really is fascinatingly your childhood that seems to shape the rest of your life. I don't know if you agree with that, but
No, it did. That set the trajectory of, where I went and my motivations and, so on and so forth.
When you first sent me my pre-copy with my name all over it, and it was on my desk for a while, and all these guests would come through the studio and all these crypto billionaires, and they'd see the pictures of the naked girls on the jets, and they'd be like, what the hell is that? And I'd be like, oh, it's Dan's book. It's coming out soon, but you can't take a look at it. But the first thing I noticed was, of course, the front part about your dad, and I might as well tell it because it's right here on the front page. But there's a quote from your dad saying, if you release this book as it is, it will be an unmitigated disaster. And then you say, of course, above that, for my father, thank you for diligently proofreading this book. Sorry I didn't take any of your suggestions. So the whole thing is prefaced by, okay, there's a father-son relationship here, which is one of the most fascinating relationships known to man. It's in the Bible. It's in a lot of my guests, to be honest, Dan. A lot of my mentors are like a father-son relationship, and people see this dynamic of, an alpha male trying to bring a son up and a son resisting some things and doing some things. And so after you've written this book, how would you describe your relationship with your dad? I mean, obviously he was a pretty intense guy, a driven guy, I guess an alpha guy, but also very different than you.
Yeah, extremely different. So I didn't get a ton of childhood interaction with him. He was working a lot, and he went to prison, and then I went away to the military. And so I would say probably not until the middle of my life that I really kind of connect with him. I mean, we would have interactions, obviously. But yeah, we were just so different, just so different. He didn't drink, he didn't party, he didn't chase girls. I mean, you read it, I saw his relationship with Ernie as being so strange, because Ernie was the guy that, had the hot chicks and the fast cars and everything else. And my dad, he had the money, but he just didn't wear flashy clothes, drove shitty cars, wore a Casio. It was just, so I think I think a lot of times in your life, you want what you don't have, or those things seem appealing to you. And we didn't have any of the flashy stuff. So I guess when I made my own money and I went to go spend it, I spent it on all the things that he didn't spend it on. And I focused on a lot of those things, the girls and whatever. And so, yeah, we just had completely different lives. I mean, he's been married to my mother the whole time, never cheated. And so, yeah, I just, guy works 18 hours a day, and I try and work as little as possible.
And yet you both were both very successful, really. You know, you both did some really big things.
Yeah, I think people that take unconventional paths either do, you know, really shitty or really well. It's, you know, we definitely were not going to be middle of the road guys. You know, you go off and you know, cut a fucking broad swath and you go down your own path that usually ends really well or really shitty. But the people that are usually super successful don't take traditional paths. They're usually out of the box thinkers, and they, you know, just kind of, you know, take their own road. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. You know, I'm sure for every successful person, there's, you know, hundreds of thousands that have crashed and burned. But, you know, it's just taking that risk. You know, that's part of it. So in order to, you know, I mean, just like in poker, in order to, you know, win big, you got to risk big. So
yeah. And I want to talk about that. It's funny, when I think about my dad, he never drank, never did drugs, you know, pretty calm. Of course, I drank everything and tried all the drugs and did the crazy stuff. So in that way, we were very different. But then now that I get older, I look at myself and I'm like, wow, I'm a lot more like him than I ever realized. Like, so there was a lot of subconscious programming going on where I am like him a lot. Do you see those parallels with you and your dad?
Yeah, I mean, there is definitely that subconscious programming. I mean, look, when you grow up, I mean, your dad is like the superhero usually, you know, for people. And so whether or not you choose to acknowledge it or not, you know, take on some of those traits just because you look up to your dad. And so when you look up to somebody, you know, a lot of times you try and emulate him, whether or not, you know, it's consciously or unconsciously. So I would say my drive and my focus and my intensity, I would say, are, you know, really similar to him. I mean, obviously, you know, there's a lot of differences, but I think there are some similarities as well. And I would say it's probably just the relentless pursuit of whatever it is that you're passionate about. For, you know, me and my dad, it's, you know, for him, it was work. It was doing the corporate takeover stuff. For me, it was pussy, money, you know, whatever. And, you know, I did well at what I wanted to do well at. They weren't probably the most lofty goals, but they were my goals and I achieved them. So for better or for worse.
Yeah, and both of you kind of no apologies for what you guys went after. And a couple key moments in the book I think are interesting. First of all, you know, him going to jail, or the threat of going to jail, and then him going to jail, and then you kind of being a little bit outcast by friends in the neighborhood, and that kind of affected you. And then obviously, I think he sent you off to military school in like 8th grade. Obviously not a lot of contact with him as well. So those events seem to kind of shape who you were. And then of course, losing your virginity, and we'll get to that. But like, what do you remember about those aspects of your childhood as far as the perceptions of your dad and then growing up in those teenage years? I'm looking for partners, collaborators, colleagues who want to join forces with me around the globe and create real value, generational wealth, and financial freedom for everyone else around the world. Get involved in the cryptocurrency markets, get involved in the NFT markets. This is your moment. Life all comes down to a few moments. Don't let this pass. Now it's not too late. Next year's going to be too late. Ultimately, this is about freedom. That's the way I see it. This is about giving power back to the people and enabling billions of people worldwide to use the financial markets to improve their lives and those of their friends and their families and their communities. Honestly, I think it's a violation of human rights not to allow people basic access to financial services. Because right now people are being kept in the dark, they're being robbed of education, and it's a travesty. And so I'm looking for people that want to join me and be a part of this solution. And that all happens inside the DeFi Academy. The gains my students are making are absolutely amazing. Double, triple digit gains in the first month alone. That's amazing. This will change your life. Now is the time to get involved. I'm going to tell you exactly how my students in my academy made money in the last 30 days. I'm talking about real trading results. And let me just whet your appetite a little bit. Let me hit you with some numbers. I'm talking Brendan from New Zealand is up 68.77% on the month. Steve from Europe up 83%. Albert in Singapore up 169.9% on one single trade. I got Susan up 153% on her call options alone, also rocking 139% returns and 442% returns as well on individual trades. These are people that are changing their financial future in the last 30 days, but it's based on trading discipline. I've graduated over 500 students from inside my academy from over 54 countries around the world. It's amazing. When it comes to crypto, DeFi, and blockchain, we love this space. We truly believe it's the future. This is down to our core. It's authentic to what we're doing, and everybody can tell through the camera because you can't make this stuff up. If you're watching me now, wherever you are, I implore you, take 60 seconds right now and join my academy. Apply today. Now you've got a chance. Life all comes down to a few moments. What are you gonna do? What's the choice that you're going to make?
Yeah, I just remember being really unhappy as a kid. I think my child, it's funny because a lot of people like say that they wish they'd go back and be a kid. I'd fucking kill myself before I had to do that again. I didn't like, listening to people. I didn't want to take orders. I felt like I had to take shit from everybody. As a kid, you don't really have a lot of freedoms. I love having freedom. Girls didn't like me. I mean, I like girls. I mean, everything that I wanted, I didn't have as a kid. I had, an indoor basketball court, but I don't give a fuck about basketball. I had a lot of things from the outside that people would be like, oh, damn, like you had a badass childhood. But the things that I cared about, I didn't have any of it. So, I wanted to be sought after by women. I wanted to have, flashy, cool shit. I wanted the fast cars. I wanted to be popular. I wanted all these things. And, I guess I ended up getting them, but not as a kid, that's for sure.
And you were insecure and uncomfortable around girls.
Yeah. I think most guys are, it's like anything in life. Until you have success at something, you're going to, not have confidence, right? Like, the first time you go out bow hunting, you're probably not going to be super confident, but after you've, shot 30 deer or, whatever it is that you want to do, free diving, snowboarding, whatever it is, when you first start something, it's pretty hard to be confident. So I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe like the guy that was super good looking and, girls were always coming after him, maybe he started off confident, but that wasn't me. So
yeah, maybe he didn't end up that way. Now, losing your virginity, it's an interesting point because you did it in a very unique way. Can you tell us how it happened? And do you think that affected you and your future relationship with women or not?
A unique way. That's one way to put it. Yeah, losing your virginity at 13 to a Mexican hooker is probably not the most traditional path. I don't know. I think it's different for guys and girls. For guys, they just kind of want to get it out of the way and learn. And this was back before, we had the internet to teach us everything and you could watch Pornhub or whatever. I mean, when I fucked that girl, I hadn't even seen a vagina before. Like, I didn't even know where it was. Like, I just like, so you have to understand it's just very different for kids nowadays. I mean, you can literally watch people having sex, at 6 years old. You could, go on the fucking internet and type in sex and it'll come up, and back then we just didn't have any of that. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think the first time people have sex is usually that great. It's more of a learning experience. So for me, I was just trying to get as much knowledge as possible, as soon as possible. So I don't know. I mean, yeah.
How old are you, Dan?
I'm 41.
41. So yeah, I'm 51, but people don't know back in the day, like there was no access, and I remember
None.
We had a college student that used to live with us and we'd give him free room and then they'd have to drive us around and all this. My mom did this as a single mom to like save on money. And at one point I went to him and he literally had to draw out the female anatomy because I was like, what the hell is going on down here? Like, I got no idea. There's no internet. There's no resources. There's no porn. He literally had to draw it for me because I didn't know what was going on. So like you said, back in the day, there was a real lack of information. I don't know what's better then or now. I don't know what's worse. But
it's tough, man. It's a toss up. Now you have so much information and so much access and so much stimulus. that I feel like it gives people anxiety. They get so much stimulus on their phone that then when they're not on their phone, it's hard for anything to replicate that level of just boom, 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 which is why I think TikTok is so addictive, is because, the algorithm, it knows what you want and then it shows it to you, and it shows it to you in these snippets that are just designed to capture your attention immediately. And you kind of see it now when people watch movies, right? It's like, a movie, the good dramas, used to have a very slow build up and you get to know the characters and whatever. And now it's kind of like, if you don't hook the audience soon, they're going to be on their phone or they're going to be zoned out or whatever. And so it's just different. I think it's given people a lot shorter attention span. But at the same time, you learn a lot more and you figure shit out a lot faster. And, you've got a lot more access to information because of that. You build on that information. And you learn more and you figure things out faster. So I don't know. I mean, I think there's a benefit to having, good old conversations where people just look each other in the eye and shake hands and talk and things are normal, as opposed to now where you're texting 50 different people and you're ghosting this chick because that's going to be effective, and you're communicating on Snap and Instagram. It's like you got 70 different messages going, 50 different people, and it's this whole thing. And it's just so radically different, and I don't know what's better. It's, it's kind of like, I guess in the next 20, 30 years, we'll see the net effect of a lot of these things. And then we'll know, I mean, I know that when I was a kid, things were a lot simpler, when I say a kid, when I was, 18, 19 years old, you were just less distracted. You were more in the moment. And that was nice, but you were a lot more ignorant. You were less connected to people. So it's just a different world, man.
Yeah.
Very different world. I think we're like of the few generations that actually experienced both, right? Because, if anybody much younger than me kind of probably grew up with the internet, like the internet kind of hit when I was 20 years old. So before that, it just wasn't even a thing. I mean, there was no smartphones, there was no internet, there was just no way to, get this information. I remember, wanting to do steroids and just having no fucking idea how to do it. I didn't know where to shoot it. I, ended up having some fucking, guy in a Mexican veterinary pharmacy smack me in the ass and jabbed me with a fucking harpoon needle. And, and just, you had no idea, man. And now it's like you could just watch YouTube videos on literally anything. So.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like you and I have seen before and after. And the thing is, you can't put the genie back in the bottle, so no one will ever know. But there was a world before. Maybe it was simpler. I don't know. But also, like you said, there was a real lack of information. And again, I would have never learned about a Goggins or a Bilzerian when I was a kid. All I got was what was on TV, at the movies, or what was in a library. So yeah, again, in some ways, I couldn't expand my mind. So yeah.
But the flip side to that is now you have every dickhead and their mother trying to get famous, doing crazy shit, risking their lives, doing all this stupid stuff for Instagram. It's hard to really like enjoy the moment because everybody's fucking filming all the time. It's like, instead of enjoying an experience, everybody wants to capture the experience. And so I think, that's definitely a negative, I would say.
Yeah. You sounded like a
and also your lack of privacy. Like I have no privacy. Like people are filming me all the time. Like if I go out, it's like you're like a fucking zoo animal. You know what I mean? People are just like filming you without consent, whatever. And so I think it's even more isolating for people that are, famous. It's just, everything they do is documented. So and now it's like, a lot of these guys, they fuck up one time and it's like, boom, they're canceled. So yeah. It's a little bit different, and I think there was more mystique with celebrity before. And it was different as well. Like these actors, if they don't have social media and they're not posting, they don't do a movie, people just forget about them. Yeah. That's another thing is like you stay famous a lot longer now because of social media. I mean, look, I've been famous for like 10 fucking years. Like that wasn't really a thing before. Like, usually big actors would have a 5-year run and then, they kind of like stop doing movies or they'd want privacy or whatever. And then you wouldn't really hear that much about them. Like you'd remember their name, but like you wouldn't think about them. But now with social media, you're just like, look, I took 3 years off. I don't give a fuck about it. And I came back and it was just like, I'm getting more, views now than ever, and it's like, so just, you can't just turn it off either. That's another thing. But yeah, it's totally different fucking game now. Everybody's, now because fame is accessible for people, like you got that cash me outside chick that, says one stupid thing on a fucking TV show, and now she's making $2 million a month on OnlyFans, and she's got a whole fucking career, and now she's all of a sudden a rapper. It's like just off of one thing, so it's like everybody's kind of like looking for that breakthrough moment. And I feel like there's a newfound obsession with fame because now it's accessible for almost anybody, and people see that. So I think there's a lot more people that are trying to be famous or that value fame or whatever, much more so, I think, than we were when we were kids. I mean, I never thought I was going to be famous. You probably never thought, anybody would know who the fuck you were, right? Like it was just either you're a movie star or rock star, people don't know you. I mean, that was how it was, and now it's very different.
Yeah, well, you've been in this for 10 years, which is like 100 years in social media. So you've seen this crazy arc happen, of being kind of an early kind of OG of posting kind of those premium content on what used to be these like basic social media platforms. And like you said, now you can see everybody jumping into things. I was at Yosemite National Park a few years ago, Dan, and I went there when I was a kid. And, you go up and look at the, geysers and the grok face that Alex, climbed. And now you go back and there are warning signs saying, don't get social media photos because people are killing themselves. And it's like, it's crazy. These rocks have been there for hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years. And now humans, because we created this digital system, are killing ourselves to try to get the coolest selfie. It's wacky, isn't it? It's just wacky. Hey, do you want to profit from crypto? Then join my DeFi Academy. The Crypto DeFi Academy will help you create generational wealth. But don't take my word for it. Listen to my students.
When I first got into crypto, I remember thinking to myself, I need to learn more. Brian Rose, learning crypto, learning DeFi, gotta do it.
I am so grateful that I jumped in and did this. I had to break through some limiting beliefs that I can do this, that I can afford this, that I can be in this.
It challenges the things that are deeply rooted within us.
Joining DeFi Academy has been one of the best decisions I have made on my blockchain journey.
This course was a life changer, a game changer, a huge eye-opener, coming from knowing practically nothing at the speed of the learning over 4 weeks was just fantastic.
The information you provided in this class was invaluable.
I feel far more confident in my next steps.
You took complex concepts and made them easier to understand.
What's different than so many other ones is it just doesn't tell you what to do. It actually makes you do it.
This is for people who are serious about becoming traders. This is the way it should be done.
I realized from this learning experience again that it is not about what you learn, but about who you learn it from.
The energy was insane. I've never experienced such incredible energy on a live call. Brian Rose, you are a legend, my friend.
It's the only thing in the market where you can get all information and learn everything what you need to know.
Everything is so clear and so well done, and I am just forever grateful for this program.
It made me feel so much more confident about crypto than I did before.
I did not anticipate how passionate I was going to become about it.
It's of course been like a big learning experience for me, not just in the crypto space, but just an overall balance of life.
What I've learned is, how to take ownership, of my life in a way that I really hadn't before.
Yeah, you can't put a price on that, really.
I would recommend it to anybody, top notch.
Excellence does not come cheap. So if you want excellence, you gotta pay for it, but it's so worth it.
Pull the trigger. That's what this course is about.
You're not going to regret it, really. It's amazing.
Thank you, Brian and team.
So what are you waiting for? Crypto is happening now. Click the link below, submit your application, and let me mentor you on how to create generational wealth and build the decentralized financial infrastructure of the future.
Yeah, I mean, we just lost one of our athletes about 2 weeks ago. He died base jumping. And, not that he was doing that, strictly for social media or that it was anything to do with that, but it's just, I don't know. I mean, I think people are much more willing to take risk if they know that there's some potential upside, as opposed to just like doing it for the thrill.
Yeah.
And yeah, you see all these base jumpers, man, and it's like, it's really sad. I mean, it's a fucking amazing sport, and I'm sure it's the fucking ultimate adrenaline, and it looks amazing, and fucking I'll probably end up trying it. But you know, it was just sad, man, because I knew he was gonna die. Like when you're friends with the base jumper, they're gonna die. Like they are, like somebody that does wingsuit base jumping will die if they jump enough. Like it's just odds, right? And they know it, and but they're addicted to the adrenaline and they like it, and you know, that's their choice, man, and I respect it. But it's just sad. Like he died, the guy that filmed him died a day later, and then his other base jumping partner died 2 days after that. So literally in 1 week, 3 of them died. It was just like,
wow,
man, you know, it's really sad. And like, and it was, yeah, and the only way they identified him was the Ignite wingsuit, man. It was just like, dude, fucking, man, that really hit hard. That was a pretty shitty one. But I think there's a lot of people that are, I mean, not that was, you know, I don't think his had anything to do with social media, but I'm just saying, you know, there's people out there doing crazy shit and, you know, filming it. And I think because they're filming it, they take it up probably another notch that they might not have otherwise.
Yeah, it would be hard not to. And again, if you're seeing what other people are doing and you're consciously or subconsciously competing with them, then you're going to take it up a notch. And the only way you can show it is with the film, right? So yeah, but the margin for error is so low. And like you said, on a long enough timeline or a short enough timeline for base jumping, everybody dies. So
yeah.
I guess it's like any extreme lifestyle, but with that, it's just slightly weird. So, well, sorry to hear that. And again, that's like vivid. And it also must be really tricky when one of your friends dies, then is there a seed of doubt in the other ones? You know, I know it really hits the community hard when that happens. So,
I mean, I hope it does,
yeah.
You know, I hope it does because, you know, if somebody's had 500 jumps, then maybe they can get out and, you know, they've skirted death and they've got that whole experience and, you know, they don't have to take it to the last jump.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be my hope. I mean, I think it's something that's like, I mean, it looks fucking amazing. I mean, I get it. I get why they do it. But I think at some point you got to set a limit of like, okay, we're going to do 50 jumps. We're going to do 10 jumps or whatever it is. But like,
yeah,
you just can't. It's like playing Russian roulette. I mean, you just play enough, you're going to get killed. I mean, it's the way it is, you know?
Yeah, but you hang out with all these adrenaline junkies. You hang out with UFC fighters. You hang out with people that probably party crazy. I mean, and you know, there's a certain type of personality that can't walk away from that rush, right?
Yeah, and I think there's different types of rushes, you know, like off-roading, for instance. I would say a dirt bike is a 10 out of 10 on the adrenaline scale. I think it's got to be close. I mean, maybe a 9.5, whatever. It's up there, and and fun-wise, I mean, it's got to be like one of the most fun sports to be really good on a dirt bike. I mean, it's fucking amazing. But you know, you could take a trophy truck out and have almost that exact same level of exhilaration. I mean, you know, just yesterday I was doing 100 miles an hour going through fucking 6-foot whoops, you know, sideways, fucking drifting across the fucking highway, you know, at 80 miles an hour. And like, I mean, that was pretty fucking, you know, adrenaline for me. And every girl in the car was fucking screaming and it was fun. But I got a roll cage. Yeah. We got 5-point harnesses. You know, if we fucking crash, like we're going to walk away from it, you know, whereas, you know, on a dirt bike, there's no fucking cage. There's no safety equipment. And I guess that's, you know, you get a little bit of the rush from that. But I think as I get older, I just think of like smarter ways to get the same adrenaline just in a safer fashion. Or I try and like plan it out a little bit better. Like before I go, you know, when I do cliff jumping, I'd just fucking jump. And now I like go and check the fucking bottom and make sure there's not rocks, or, you know, we do things a little bit more, you know, carefully. So I don't know, man. When you're young, you just feel like you're fucking invincible, you know? But as you get older, you realize you're just not.
It's like the older, wiser Dan Bilzerian. And again, risk versus reward, which kind of goes into, you know, poker, et cetera. So, but yeah, it's a good point you make. Look, I want to get through some of these important points in your life because it shaped who you are. And so the military service was interesting. And of course, going to Tijuana to get the steroids to get ready for military service, or even during, was part of that as well. But for you, I mean, your dad was in the military, decorated in Vietnam. Again, part of you maybe wanted to prove something, knew it might make you a man. Tell me a little bit about why you did that and how it set you up then to become a great poker player.
I would say 90% of the reason that I wanted to become a Navy SEAL was to tell people that I was a Navy SEAL.
Yeah, and you told the SEAL guys that, right? You told them that in buds, right?
They did not like that. My honesty has definitely not done me any fucking favors in my life for the most part. But yeah, man, that was the truth. Like, I just wanted to fucking brag about it. I felt like it would, get me laid. I felt like it would give me more confidence. I felt like people would respect it. It was, it was just a test of all tests. And so, yeah, it was one of those weird things, man. And I feel like I did it. I was fucking got kicked out one day before graduation and did the entire fucking thing again. So, like, in my mind, I did it. I just didn't get I didn't get the only thing that I went in there to get, which was the bragging rights. And fucking say that I was a Navy SEAL. My God, I missed a fucking day, right? So that was pretty brutal, man. And that was a hard pill to swallow. But
was it attitude that threw you out that last day?
So I didn't think that they could kick me out just because they didn't like me. Like, I thought that, I could be cocky and pass all my shit and do all my stuff, and that they couldn't just kick me out if I passed everything and I didn't quit. I knew they could beat my ass and do all this other stuff, but like, I don't know. And I was cocky. Like, the first time I went through, I had stress fractures. I was 18 years old. I'd never run fucking 2 miles in my life. I was, 165 pounds soaking wet. I just I'd just gotten out of high school. I'd worked out for like a year and a half. And played baseball for a few years before that. So I wasn't some fucking athlete. And then when I came back after doing it, at 18, broken, whatever, now I'm fucking juicing. I'm 20 years old. I'm in fucking amazing shape. I'd already done Hell Week with fucking stress fractures. So I was just like, fuck it, bring it on. You know what I mean? I wasn't worried about shit. And so I don't know, man. I was a little cocky. And I also felt like I had done this shit before, right? So I was just trying to just graduate and just get through. I don't know, man. I probably could have fucking done it better. Like I said, for me, I just wanted to graduate. That was like my sole objective. And I didn't think they could kick me out just because they didn't like me. And, I guess I was fucking wrong. But, I look back, and at the time it was the worst fucking thing I thought ever happened to me. But 3/4 of my class is dead right now. There's only 17 of us that made it through Hell Week. So a lot of them died in Operation Red Wings and some other shit. And so I don't know, man. It was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. But at the time, you couldn't have convinced me that it wasn't the worst, So
yeah,
I think also, had I have done that, I would have hung my hat on that, and I would have probably not been nearly as motivated to go accomplish as much as I did. And I wouldn't have had that insecurity and that desire and that monkey on my back driving me to go, to the fucking end of the earth with my new objectives. And also, I don't know, I wouldn't have traded the experience of the world, even as shitty as it was. It definitely, you compare anything to the shit that I went through there, and it's kind of like it pales in comparison. Aside from writing a book, which is fucking worse.
Worse than buds.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. Yeah, it's funny because I've had a few SEALs in here, like Jocko, and it's funny, Jocko said that when you get the buds class in there and you ask people around the room why they're there, and some guys will say like, I want to be a SEAL, or I want to be that, and he's like, usually those guys that drop out, it's the ones that usually have like a family or a promise to someone. But of course, you break the mold on that one. But also, Jocko went on to say that being a SEAL isn't just buds, and it's a whole nother thing afterwards. And so, again, like you said, would you have been motivated to keep going, or was it one thing? Also, that loss probably drove you so much harder. So if anybody's listening out there, the thing you think is the worst thing in your life, and I've had some of these too, you don't want to hear it at the time. And when you read it on Instagram, you're like, yeah, fuck that. This sucks. But 10 years later, a lot of times those are the best things in your life, right?
Yeah, I learned a lot. And I also went to college with a desire and a drive to fucking learn, and I valued the degree because I saw that degree was the only difference between, officers and enlisted, and I saw how the officers got treated. So that was a big deal. And then I was also 22 years old, so
yeah,
I was actually a 4-year senior, which was a big deal as far as, girls and people, being, cool and whatever. So I had a great college experience until gambling ruined it. But
Yeah. So you roll up to University of Florida. You're 22. You're in a fraternity. The other kids are 18. They're still partying and getting all the high school stuff out. You now have a perspective and say, okay, a degree means something. I've also just come off a failure in my mind and I want to win at something. I'm a little bit older. I was in a fraternity house at MIT, and you might snicker about MIT, but we had a strong fraternity system there. 50 dudes in the house. The house parties are crazy. We had a good setup too, which I'll ask you about. But like we also had older guys in the house that would just crush it. You know, they really would crush it because they knew much more than us. But tell me about that college experience for you. What were those years like?
Well, so the first year I went in there at a 4.0 GPA, or actually the first semester, 4.0 GPA. I fucked 14 chicks, which was like hot chicks, which was, I think, probably more than I had sex with my whole life prior to that. I did that in the first semester. And then, you know, I was in good shape. I was, you know, good looking. I had fucking money. I was just like, you know, 22. I was the man. Like, I just felt like the fucking man. I was loving it. I was like crushing it. And so, and plus I'd hung out with older guys, you know, when you're in the military, you're going through SEAL training, whatever, you're hanging out with like older guys. And granted, like the regular military is probably not like the coolest motherfuckers, but a lot of the guys going through buds and, you know, in the SEAL teams or whatever, you know, they're generally like, you know, pretty cool guys, whatever is, you know, in terms of, you know, what guys would perceive as cool. So, you know, that rubs off on you and you spend 4 years doing that. And then you just go there with a different mentality. Like, kind of like, look at these kids, like they've never fucking done anything difficult. You know, what the fuck have they been doing? And they're like, you know, puking in the fucking corner and trying to get laid and just making fucking fools of themselves. And I don't know, it was just I just had a different mentality. And so my beginning was great. I had a fucking amazing time. I was super happy. And then I started getting into gambling, and the gambling really kind of started fucking up my college. I call it going over the dark side, because it's funny, man, you have that money in your account and it's accessible 24/7. It's hard for anything else to compete with the thrill of like playing for, at the time, thousands of dollars, which in college is a lot of fucking money. You know, a beer was $1.50 a pitcher, right? So it's like, that goes a long ways. And I had the GI Bill kicking in. I had grants, I had loans, I had all this shit, you know, coming because I was coming in as a veteran, and technically a disabled veteran, because I had gotten stress fractures and hearing loss and all this fucking shit going through training. You know, when you go through training, they document everything. So my medical record was super thick from just all those medical checks and this and that. And, you know, ITB injuries, fucking extensor tendonitis, stress fractures, just all this shit, right? So they gave me a 60% disability rating, and I was getting money for that too. I had free health care. None of my income was taxable. So anyway, so I had a lot of money to just fuck around with and gamble. And, you know, and so I started, you know, I started playing poker, and then I started playing online poker. And online poker is what fucked me up, because like I said, it was just always there. You know, you come home drunk at a bar, it's 3 a.m. and it's like, what more entertaining are you gonna find to do than gamble for fucking, you know, thousands of dollars? And so, you know, you're all fucked up and you're not playing as good and whatever. And so very quickly, and then the more money you're losing, the worse you play. And so that kind of compounds. And I can't tell you how many times I come home drunk and just blow my whole fucking account out, and then, you know, just be depressed in the morning or whatever, and then try and grind it back. And so this whole process, anyways, when I ended up going broke, that actually gave me the discipline. You know, when I had to sell my guns, then it became real. It was like, okay, we've fucking pissed away all of our fucking money. We're in debt. We've fucking taken out loans on our car. You know, my parents wouldn't give me $1. My brother wouldn't loan me shit. I literally had to sell 3 guns, and my guns were like my prized possessions. I remember, I'll just never forget it. That was like a very distinct turning point in my life. I sold those guns. I went to that gambling boat. And from that point on, I took it really seriously. I wasn't bluffing to like, you know, show somebody and say, fuck you. I was bluffing when I thought it would work, you know, and it wasn't about ego. It was about making fucking money. And I think once I turned that corner and got that discipline, I was still, you know, I was playing a very aggressive style back then, which wasn't, you know, now it's the current adopted style, but nobody was really playing like that back then. I was playing loose aggressive. So I'd play a lot of pots. I talked about it in the book, you know, so people would perceive me as being this maniac. And then when I did have a big hand, I'd always get fucking paid. And when they didn't have anything, they'd fold, you know. So it's like I was picking up enough money when they didn't have shit to make up for occasionally, you know, when I was bluffing, when I, you know, didn't have it. and got caught. And then I was really making the money when I would get paid off on my fucking big hands, and they'd put their whole stack in there and they couldn't win. So I had actually set up, because of my table image, a lower variance style of playing, because, you know, the best way to win in poker is to get all your money in with the best hand. It's not to try and get away with bluffs, because some guy gets a fucking hair up his ass and decides to just call you all in, then you get fucking busted. Whether or not he's got middle pair or not, you know, it doesn't matter. Sometimes these guys get sticky, and sometimes they just want to see your hand and they just don't believe you and whatever. And so when I did have it, that would pay big dividends. You know, I'd get these massive paydays that other pros wouldn't get, because their perception at the table was that they wouldn't put their money in unless they had it. And I had the opposite perception. So I just had to lean into that, and I had to shift gears, and, you know, I made a bunch of fucking money. And when I, you know, came back from Vegas, I never looked back. And then when I went online and I played, people would have these tags on me like, this guy's a fucking maniac, call him, because you can put notes on players, right? So then I came back with this newfound discipline and this newfound bankroll, and really capitalized on the fact that people knew that I was capable of fucking bluffing and sticking my whole stack in there with nothing, which a lot of people at the time weren't capable of doing. So, it, you know, look, if you're a rich guy and you think there's a 10% chance some fucking young punk is trying to fucking bluff you off your hand, and you've been waiting all night for this big hand, you're never folding him. You're just not going to do it. You're going to pay the fucking money. Worst case scenario, you're going to sleep good at night. You're not, you know what I mean? So I just, you know, I understood people, you know, and then it fucking worked out.
So maybe this is the beginning of this concept of this setup. And I think it was Sun Tzu in the book, The Art of War. He says, every battle is won before it's ever fought. And it feels like these are the seeds that are being planted in your head, consciously, subconsciously. Well, first, I think it's actually with girls, the fraternity house, because like you said in the book, you know, you'd have 150 girls over to a fraternity house of 50 guys, and then your room's right around the corner. I used to do this at the fraternity, and it was like the greatest gift known to man at that point. I mean, I'd gone from high school where I couldn't get into the keg parties because I wasn't cool, to literally hundreds of girls coming over to your fraternity house after you had gone to their dorm to give them a poster the day before because I was a pledge and I had to do that. So you already had contact with the girls. They're coming over. You're the man in the party. You're getting behind the bar, the beer, and guess what? I got a room. If you had a CD player in your room and a sofa, then you were the man. And it's like, but the setup is why we got there, because you had the social proof, you had the ratios. I guess you saw that, and then you did it as well in poker now with this perception and this image. Can you talk 100%. About the setup?
Yeah, no, it's funny, man. I actually think that it started going through SEAL training. I call it SEAL training. You know, nobody knows what the fuck BUDS is, so I just call it SEAL training. I think it started then, because when I went in, I didn't do any fucking setup, and I was unprepared, and I did shitty because of that. And so when I got kicked out and I was going to be medically discharged from the military, I started training like a motherfucker and got in good shape. And when I went in good shape, going through SEAL training was like a fucking breeze compared to what it was when I was broken and unprepared and this and that. So I think that was probably the first time in my life when I really, you know, started to understand it. But it clicked in college when I saw it with the ratio, with the girls, with the logistics solved. I mean, a big part of getting laid is logistics, right? Like, if you have a bedroom right by the club, like, you know, when I used to host Marquee or whatever, they'd pay me to go there for like an hour and a half to stock my table with models, and then I had a bungalow attached to the club, so I literally could just, you know, bring a girl to the bungalow, fuck her, shower, come back, fuck another girl, and like before the night was over, I'd already banged 3 chicks. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, but the logistics were solved. Versus a lot of these guys, they go to fucking this club, and then it's like, okay, let's go to Dre's, and now we're fucked up on Molly, and it's 5 a.m. And it's like, even if you can get a chick back to your house, your fucking dick's probably not going to work. You've been doing coke all night. And it's like, I looked at going out as like, I looked at everything in life as like, what do I want to accomplish, and how am I going to do it? Right? Like, when I went out, my goal was to get pussy. That was it. I didn't want to fucking dance. I didn't want to talk to my friends with fucking earplugs in and pay $10,000 to fucking do it. I went out to get pussy. That was the reason I went out. So, you know, I figured out the best way to, you know, make that happen. It was to go to the club, you know, already bringing hot girls, preferably 2 or 3 that already want to fuck you, because they're going to bring jealousy, and it's going to be social proof, and girls are going to see that, and because those hot girls want to fuck you, then other hot girls want to fuck you, and it's a little snowball effect. right? And then you have to have logistics solved, like, okay, where are you actually going to fuck them, and how are you going to get there, you know? And how do you do that early on? Because too many guys wait late, and then the girl gets too fucking sloppy, or the guy gets too drunk, or, you know, whatever, right? So it's like, get it done, you know, as soon as you possibly can, and then go get it done again and whatever. So like, I don't know, man. I look at, you know, that was my talent in life, is like, I figured out what I wanted and then how to fucking get it. That's what I was good at. I couldn't play a fucking guitar, you know, I couldn't fucking, you know, throw a football, whatever. My talent was I could figure out what I wanted and how to get it. And so, you know, college really opened my eyes, because it showed me that, you know, if there's fucking 10 girls for every guy, that now the girls have to compete for guys' attention, you know, and those girls are going to that party like they just left their parents' house. They haven't fucking been on their own. They've been being told what to do their whole fucking life. They've been being judged by every fucking asshole in high school. Now they can go to college, and, you know, one of our parties, Dayglow, for instance, you show up, the girls paint the guys, and the guys paint the girls. So already, like, just at the very start of this party, girls are fucking rubbing you down with glow-in-the-dark paint, and you've got multiple girls because there's less guys than girls. So you got 5 girls that basically, like, choose you and go rub you down with fucking paint and grope you. I mean, I had to pull my fucking dick out in the middle of this fucking thing. I mean, this was fucking craziness. This is before the party even started. They paint you, then you paint them, which is basically like them being like, yeah, fucking rub me down. So you're just like fucking painting them glow in the dark paint. Then the party starts. This is like, the party hasn't even started yet, right? They turn the lights off, DJ gets on, they got the fucking pledges running around with like tequila bottles like it's fucking Cabo Spring Break, pouring shots down everybody's throat. You know, now you're glowing in the dark, but people can't really like see too much. So chicks would be sucking your dick on the dance floor. We had like Hummer Huts set up where, like, if you want to take a chick to bang her, or like, you know, get your dick sucked, that was like around the fucking party. So that like logistics were solved, right? And then at the end of the party, you have to end up in the shower. You're not going to fucking drive home in your fucking Civic covered in goddamn glow in the dark paint, right? So everybody ends up in the shower. Shower ends up turning into a fucking orgy because, you know, girls see, you know, their friends getting banged out by dudes, and, you know, it's fucking guys, it's all threesomes or foursomes or whatever, because there's so many more girls, and the girls are just watching this, and like, they're like drunk and they want to get involved, and they see all their friends getting fucked and nobody's judging them, so they don't feel judged. It's like accepted, and because it's accepted, then, you know, they want to do it. And it's also like they're having to find a guy, so like them finding a guy is like the prize, because the guys were the people in short, you know, supply, right? So like, girls are now hitting on guys, which changes the whole fucking dynamic immediately. That's the number one mistake guys make, is that they hit on women, right? And so by doing that, it's like playing a poker game with your fucking cards face up. Like, the moment you hit on a girl, you're telling her, hey, I'm interested in you and I want to fuck you. You know what that does? That puts you in the category of every other fucking dickhead they've ever met their whole fucking life that wanted to fuck them, that, you know, came up, oh, I think you're so beautiful, can I buy you a drink, blah, 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 right? The moment you do that, they're looking for reasons why to disqualify you, why you're not good enough for them, because they know they got you. They already have you. You've shown them, oh, I want you, and I want you because I want to fuck you, which is like probably the worst thing that you could fucking tell them. Oh, you're so beautiful, can I buy you a drink? AKA, I want to fuck you tonight, can I get you drunk to do so? Like, it's a terrible game, but that's like what everybody thinks is right. It's just not. Right. So anyways, take all that shit out. Now you got the girl chasing you. So now it's like, if you decide to have sex with her, she's gotten what she wanted, as opposed to like, you know, some fucking predatory dude chasing a bitch around the bar all fucking night trying to bang her. And then she does fuck him. And then she's like, got buyer's remorse because I probably shouldn't have banged that guy, blah, blah, blah. Whereas if she was chasing his ass around all fucking night and he had 3 other girls trying to fuck him and she banged him, she's like, oh, well, shit, I beat those other girls. It's a different fucking thought process. And it's very important. And it's something that people just don't realize. And it's one of the reasons why I've been able to get so much fucking pussy, is because I understand that concept. And by flipping the script and getting girls to chase you, I mean, that's, you know, the premise of the setup is, you know, just turning it around on its head. Because when a woman is chasing you, you have the power. It's, you know, it's very important. Anyways, I can go on and on. Fucking.
No, it's really, it's serious game. But Dan, you have to engineer that situation. And most guys are too lazy to do it or too ignorant to do it. So they'll
That's
do.
Not true. Just the fraternity alone, they engineered it for me. I didn't have to do shit. I mean, I figured it out. I understood the psychology. I watched. I saw. I was like, okay, this motherfucker that couldn't get laid in a million fucking years back in San Diego is now fucking 3 chicks, you know, in the bathroom, and he probably fucking didn't say 3 words to him. Why did this happen? Because of setup, because of jealousy, because of ratio, because of all these fucking things, because, because she saw her friends all fucking bang another dude, and so she doesn't feel judged. And so environment, there's just so many things that go into it, right? And so when you start to understand that, then you create these things later in your life. Like when I would do a pool party, 300 girls, a few movie producers and some of my buddies and maybe a celebrity here or there. And then, we got massage, we got mani-pedis, we got, people walking around with fucking champagne and shots. The girls don't get harassed. They're not being hit on. And I can't tell you how many guys had girls aggressively trying to fuck them in the bathroom and this and that because, girls get drunk and nobody's paying attention to them. That's very unusual for them. Normally a hot girl gets hit on all the time. And it's kind of like being famous. Like I've seen this with like celebrities that were like once famous and then now people don't pay attention to them anymore. It's like they fucking hate it. They're like, when they were famous and when people were coming up to them all the time, it was the most annoying fucking thing in the world. But then the moment that fucking stops, it's like, hey, what's going on? Nobody cares about me anymore. Like, what the fuck? It's the same thing with a hot chick. All these guys want to fuck her, and then all of a sudden, nobody's paying attention to her. What does she got to do? She's got to fuck a guy to feel validated.
Right. Now, a fraternity party has that engineered in it, but there's not a lot of other places in life except a Dan Bilzerian Halloween party, which you did invite me to, by the way. Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't come. But
you would be sorry if you fucking came. You'd realize that you missed.
Yeah, I know. I hope I get invited in the future. But like, you set these things up, but not many people do this setup. And so you know how to do it, you engineer it, but it doesn't exist many of the places on the planet, maybe, except for socially with social media.
I don't know, man. There's a lot of ways to do it. I mean, it doesn't obviously have to be on the fucking scale that I did it. I mean, I like everything else in my life, I took it to the fucking furthest extreme of the earth. But like, there's a lot of things that you can do that don't require probably a ton of money. Like, I mean, for instance, just befriending a hot girl and going out with a hot girl is going to increase your ability to get laid fucking exponentially, 10x. Like it does so many things, right? So there's little things that you can do like that. You can find out, you can just figure out something fun to do. Like, if you don't have a boat, find a friend that has a boat and invite a bunch of hot chicks. And, all of a sudden, you're going to be his best friend because you're bringing the hot girls. Hot girls are a commodity. So, you can use, this guy's boat to get these girls to come to the boat. And then you can, because you're bringing girls, now you don't have to pay for gas, or bring beer or whatever because you're bringing the chicks. I mean, chicks are a commodity. So you go out and put in that work. I mean, there's a bunch of ways to do it. I mean, then there's the law of numbers. You could just go to the mall and hit on 100 fucking girls. And when I say hit on them, I don't go up and be like, oh, you're so beautiful, fucking, I want to get your phone number, like not stupid shit like that, but just go have a conversation. Go talk to 100 girls. Out of those 100, one of them's boyfriend is going to just fuck the girl last week and she's going to be pissed, or, she's going to fucking be, on the, stage, on the rebound stage, or, maybe she's just fucking lonely, or maybe she's bored and whatever. Like, there's going to be a girl, like, I feel like almost any guy can fuck almost any girl if the situation is correct. Like, if some girl just got cheated on by her fucking boyfriend and she found out that he just fucked her best friend and did all this fucked up shit, and now you guys crash a fucking plane, a commercial airline crashes, and the both of you end up on a fucking deserted island, you're probably going to fuck that shit. You know what I mean? That's obviously a very extreme example, but I'm just saying, like, right time, right place. Like, I mean, I can't tell you how many times, like, I've hooked up with a girl that, like, I probably wouldn't have ever hooked up with had the situation not have been exactly what it was at that time.
Right.
So by just putting yourself out there and by approaching girls and talking to women, you're gonna, by definition, just have a lot better odds of finding somebody that, wants to sleep with you.
Yeah. Really well said. So if guys are listening, first of all, consider that extreme. There is a situation in this world where the lowest value guy could get the highest value girl. Just accept that as fact. And most guys will probably say, yeah, maybe Dan has a point. Then it's a numbers game. And then make sure you don't go in with the wrong frame. And you play that in a long enough timeline, you should find success, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and I mean, and you're going to build confidence. And the way you're going to build confidence is you're not going to fucking care. And by not caring, that telegraphs confidence like nothing else. And if you've been rejected 500 times, are you really going to give a fuck if you get rejected 501? Like, probably not.
Yeah.
So just go out and fucking get rejected up 500 fucking times just so that you stop giving a fuck about rejection. And by the way, if you go out and your goal is to get rejected, you're not going to give a fuck if you do. And so that's actually going to help you. So go out and try and bomb 10 times with girls. Don't even try and fuck them. Try and fuck it up. Try and go embarrass yourself. Just fucking whatever it takes for you to go out there and not care or not put that much fucking, emphasis on the net result is just better. And like I said, just have conversations with them, ask them a question, whatever the fuck ever. Like the more guys talk to hot girls, the less they're going to be nervous about it, because they're going to realize like these hot girls are just fucking human beings like you, and it's like, doesn't really matter that much. You're probably not going to fuck her. So who cares? Just go talk. And the more you do that, and the less there's like, because a lot of times guys will get nervous. They'll put so much into it. They'll be like, oh my God, this girl's so hot. Like that could be the one. Like I would marry that girl, blah, blah, blah. They fucking hype her up in their head. And it's like, who knows? This girl maybe have fucking banged 10 dudes last week. She may be the fucking town bicycle for all you know. You know what I mean? She may be a working fucking hooker. Like, who knows? Maybe she's got a fucking, disease. I don't know. Like, there could be fucking issues with this person, but in their mind, they've like put this person on the pedestal. And because of that, like their approach just sucks. And also a lot of times these hot girls don't think that highly of themselves because they know they have flaws, or they're comparing themselves with the top echelon of other girls or whatever. And so the moment you start putting them on that pedestal, they, in their mind, immediately view you as being beneath them. And if they don't have high self-esteem, then they're automatically going to think you're really fucking a loser if you're kissing their ass. I mean, it's stripper mentality, right? That's why strippers always end up, I mean, not all, but most strippers end up with guys that treat them like shit, is because the guys that have been treating them good are usually low value guys, coupled with the fact that they usually don't have high self-esteem themselves. So when a guy does treat them well, they automatically think, oh, well, this guy must not be that cool. And so that's like a self-fulfilling prophecy for that girl to be miserable for sure for the rest of her life, because she's never going to find a guy that, well, she may find guys that give a shit about her, but she's never going to give them the time of day. The only guys that they're going to date is guys that don't give a shit about them, which is a recipe for disaster. So
yeah, no, it's true. It's true. Most guys, especially when they're first starting off, would never understand that the hottest girl in the room might be less secure with herself than one of the mediocre looking girls. And so sometimes the hot girls compare themselves against the hot girls, and sometimes they're very insecure. And again, it's a lot like celebrities. I've had a lot of famous people on the show, including you, and the last thing they want to do is someone to come up to them and say, oh my gosh, you're amazing. I've been watching you my whole life. Could you just give me 1 second of your precious time? Like, nobody likes to be treated that way. Not a celebrity, not a hot girl,
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't bother me. When people do that, I mean, I'm flattered. I mean, I think it's cool. I'm always like nice to people that come up and if they're complimentary, I'm never like, oh, this guy's a loser. Like, I don't think like that. I wouldn't say that, but like, if you're trying to like befriend a celebrity, going up and like kissing their ass excessively is probably not going to, lead to that. But, I don't know, man. I think, look, we're all humans, man. Whether somebody's famous or not, a lot of times people that are famous have more fucking issues than people that aren't. A lot of times when you focus on one thing, like if all you've been doing, like, listen, there's 8 billion fucking people in the world. If you are the best at something and you've beaten 8 billion, I mean, obviously everybody's not competing for the same shit, but whatever. If you're the best out of 8 billion at one thing, like usually you're fucking pretty like tunnel visioned, and you're like, your scope of experience is probably pretty limited. And so a lot of these people aren't the best socially adapted always, they're the best at whatever it is because they've dedicated their entire fucking life to that thing. But by definition, that usually makes them less well-rounded, less experienced in other things. So like when they're talking about that one thing, yeah, they've got a great area of expertise, but when it comes to just like life in general, they might not be very interesting people, for the most part. And also fame is isolating too. So you take that coupled with the isolation piece of it. And a lot of times, some of these famous people are kind of socially awkward. Like they can perform, it's like a comedian, for instance. Like I didn't realize this until later, but I was going to some of these comedy shows, and a lot of these comedians aren't funny. They're just actors. They've done that fucking skit 100 times, and they've paused at the right time, and their fucking delivery is right and whatever. But like, they're not just coming up there fucking, and they're super witty and they're coming up with all these fucking I mean, some of them are, I'm sure. I'm not saying all comedians aren't funny. Like obviously some of them are, but a lot of them literally just go practice that fucking routine until it's perfected. And I learned this because I went to some comedy clubs in LA and they were like, you know, pretty entertaining, it was cool, it was fun. But like sometimes, you know, you'd see the same comedian come up and he would do the same exact fucking skit that he had just done last week. And when you saw it last week, you're like, oh, fuck, that's pretty funny. You know, like he paused, he incorporated people from the audience. It's like, oh, like it just seemed like this was happening right there in the moment. But like that motherfucker had been sitting in his fucking apartment rehearsing this for like 500 hours before this. And he had done it at 10 other comedy clubs or whatever. So I don't know, man, life is not always what it seems, you know?
Yeah. And it's true. A lot of the people that we look up to as these like gods in their fields, a lot of times, like you said, they've spent a lot of time specializing on that one thing. And I used to have guests on the show and I used to say sometimes the guests themselves need more love than sometimes the audience. Like sometimes they're also struggling because they've focused on this one thing for so much that they've left other aspects of their life out. Or like when they're on stage, they're cool, but off stage, man, they don't know what to do. So yeah, it just goes to show you, like, you never really know what's going on. And everyone's
I was hanging out with Jewel, the singer.
Yeah. She's very cool. I heard her on Rogan. Quite a story, right? Yeah.
She's super cool. And I met her at Necker Island. And I actually didn't really know who she was because she was a little bit like, you know, out of my genre, slightly before my time, whatever. But I'd heard the name, you know, and then she went up on stage and she performed. And I was like, oh, wow, this fucking girl can sing, like whatever. And we ended up talking a little bit and she saw like people coming up to me a lot and, you know, and whatever. And we kind of like bonded over that. She said something that was like really interesting. She said, fame is a lonely hearts club. And I was like, that just really stuck with me because it's so true. You know, like a lot of people that are in the spotlight just end up really like isolating themselves. And there's a lot of reasons for it. I think one of the reasons is because of all the unnatural forced interactions that happen when you go out. Like last night I was like, you know, taking some fucking ketamine and whatever. And like, you know, I was just going to the show and, you know, it's just like, fuck, man. Like, and I made a pact to take all the fucking pictures, you know, like whatever. And so, you know, people come up and you're like, yeah, you know, whatever, you take the picture, they want to have a fucking conversation. But it's like, man, when you're fucked up, a lot of times you just don't want to talk to strangers, you know, you just really don't. And also a lot of times when they come up, they're nervous and whatever. So like that anxiety kind of like almost rubs off on you because like they're anxious and you're just kind of like, you know, waiting for them to say, you know, I don't know, man, it's a whole thing. And I hate that on mushrooms. Like I hate talking to strangers on mushrooms.
Oh yeah.
You know, that's the worst. But anyway, so like you go out and you have these forced, unnatural interactions where people come up to you and they already have this like preconceived notion of who you are, which is usually fucking wrong. And they have this like whole expectation and whatever. And I don't know, man, it's just like, it's kind of nice to just meet somebody and have a clean slate instead of meeting somebody and they already like think all these fucking things and then it's not a natural interaction, you know? And like you said, when they come up and they, you know, fucking say all this crazy shit, it's kind of like, I don't know, man, like if somebody comes up and like talks about how fucking amazing you are, I don't know, it's not like, it's kind of like a little bit weird, you know, like to just like, you know, what do you say to that, right? Like if somebody came up to you and like, oh my God, Brian, you're the fucking man. I love you, bro. You're the fucking greatest. Like I watched this and this and this and this. And like, I mean, you're just like sitting there. It's like, what do you say? Like, yeah, thanks, man. You know what I mean? It's like, that's not a normal interaction, you know? Yeah. And so you have these like forced non-normal interactions a lot. And it's like, fuck, man, sometimes you just want to go out with your friends and have fucking, you know, a fucking lunch and not have people come up and talk to you. Or sometimes you're just like on a beach, you know, like I was fucking on a beach in Kauai with fucking naked chicks and we're doing mushrooms and fucking, you know, I got some fucking dude coming over to me wanting to have fucking conversation. It's like, bro, like, fucking shrooming with these girls, leave me the fuck alone, you know? But like, you know, you don't want to be an asshole to him either. You don't want to like traumatize the guy because like, you know, this is like his moment, you know, like when I saw Goggins and fucking at the dealership, you know, if I'd gone up to him and said, and he was just like, fuck off, you know, like, man, that would have hurt, you know? So you don't want to do that to somebody also, you know what I mean? But like, there's that fine line of like, man, like you still want to kind of like be able to fucking live your life without constant interruption too. So
yeah,
it's a curse.
I see you out in public. You always take time to take pictures with everybody. I think that probably surprises a lot of people because you could easily blow by or have your security push them away, but like you always spend time taking those pictures, which
I take every picture.
Every picture. Wow.
I take every picture unless I'm like in some fucking crazy hurry or I'm late to something or if it's like you can't do it if it's like a crowd, because if you fucking do that in a crowd, like, and you don't have heavy security, you're going to get fucking mobbed. Like because people will come up that don't even know who you are because of this hysteria. And then they want a picture. It's like, it just compounds and snowballs and gets fucking crazy, And I actually had a fucking $1 million watch stolen off my wrist at the Canelo fight because I was like, stop to take a fucking picture in a crowd, And I don't know, man. Like it's a weird thing. People are herd animals. They see other people doing it, or they see other people fucking excited, and they get excited, and it can definitely spiral out of control where you just kind of can't fucking walk through a thing,
Yeah, your next book should be on human social dynamics. We'll talk about that. So, couple things. So, do you find it, Dan, is it easier for you to be friends with someone who's famous, like a Jewel, or a Goggins, or a TJ Dillashaw, or a Cerrone, because you guys both kind of know what's up, and you guys all kind of know what's up, and you're like, at least we can get over that stuff. The greedy bankers are about to do it again. In 2008, they crashed our financial system and nearly bankrupted the entire global economy. Then they received trillions of dollars in government bailouts. And after, they demanded fat bonuses paid for by you, the taxpayer.
It turns out the banks haven't just been screwing the American taxpayers, they're also screwing over their investors. Turns out the banking industry is the worst place you could put your money, despite enormous taxpayer bailouts.
Now the bankers are back to take away your financial freedom. They lie and tell you that cryptocurrency isn't safe. They try to make it illegal for you to choose how to invest your hard-earned money. They lie and say cryptocurrency is used by money launderers and criminals. But look at the record. It's the banks themselves that launder hundreds of billions of dollars every year to the biggest criminal operations in the world.
Leaked documents have revealed how some UK banks have helped criminals, money launderers and Russians under sanctions.
American authorities discovered that the Sinaloa cartel moved $881 million through HSBC accounts as bank officials turned a blind eye to the illegality.
The bankers lie and say cryptocurrency is not a real investment. Meanwhile, the smartest CEOs in the world are buying billions and billions of it. The truth is that banks lie about cryptocurrency because it makes them scared. The banks take $9 trillion per year of your hard-earned money, and they are worried that they will finally be exposed. They're scared because crypto means they can no longer control your money, which means they can no longer control you. They are scared because you might actually understand your money and intelligently decide what to do with it. Now is the time for us to come together, fight back, and take control. It's time to educate ourselves, our families, and our communities. Because financial education means financial freedom. We know that cryptocurrencies will help us build the new decentralized financial system of the future. A banking system that is of the people, by the people, and for the people. A banking system where access to finance is a fundamental human right. A banking system that is free and fair and welcomes all humans on this earth. The DeFi revolution is happening. We, the people, can no longer be fooled. We choose to take control of our finances. We choose to take control of our freedom. We choose to take control of our future. Join us, and let's take back our financial freedom forever.
There's definitely a bond because I'm not going to like fanboy them and they're not going to fanboy me, which, like I said, man, when people come up and say that, it's flattering, and I fucking and like I'm not talking shit at all about that. It's just like, you know, when you're fucking hanging out having beers, like you want it to be, you know, you want it to be with your peers, you know, you want it to be with people that you know you have mutual respect for and whatever, and like and I don't respect them because they're famous. I don't really care that much about that, but I do know that they've been through what I've been through, and we have an understanding of that. You know, and like if they bring their friends around, like it's, you know, they're not going to be like fucking videotaping me and shit. There's like a understanding of privacy and a respect of privacy that people that are famous have, because they realize like how important privacy is and how nice it is to have.
Yeah.
So you bond over that. Plus, like, there's so many people now that want to be famous, you know, that like are hanging out because they want to be seen with you, or they want to like this or that, or they want to get tagged or whatever. Whereas other famous people, you know, they're not usually like trying to use you to get in, you know what I mean? It's like a different thing. Just like in LA, like, you know, I didn't hang out with anybody that, you know, wasn't rich, because anybody that wasn't rich, I felt like was trying to get something from me, you know, and even if they were rich, a lot of times they were trying to get shit from me too, but at least I felt like they could add value as well. You know, so I don't know. I think probably the reason why, I mean, I would say more of my friends are famous is just because of that understanding, because I don't feel like they're like, and then most of my friends are just guys that I've known from a long time ago. Those are like, that's my core. But new friends, you know, I'll let famous people in the circle because I feel like they get it, and, you know, and they've got shit to lose too. And I don't know. And also usually it's just interesting, you know, they've walked a different path, and I know how many doors fame opens, and I know the crazy shit that happens because of that. So, you know, they'll have interesting stories and sometimes an interesting perspective. So yeah. I don't know.
You mentioned ketamine last night. What drugs does Dan Bilzerian do and not do? I know mushrooms are something you like, which is, it's a good drug. It's an introspective drug. What else? And what don't do as well?
Yes, I don't even think of mushrooms. I don't even look at that as like a drug, you know? That's like, to me, that's like naturally occurring. It's from the earth. It's been here since the beginning of time. It's, I think it's a tool, you know? I think it's a tool that allows you to remove your ego, and it allows you to get the answers to like what you want to do. And I think it's, I think it's fun. It's like it allows you to do things that you did when you were a kid and enjoy them. You don't need a ton of stimulus. You don't need some crazy fucking, you know, adventure to entertain you. Like, you could just be fucking floating down a river, or you could be sitting on a beach, or you could just be swimming in the ocean, or free diving on mushrooms is fucking amazing. But yeah, that's the best, man. I've done some crazy breath holds on that shit.
You know, when you post your mushroom pictures on Instagram, Dan, I got to say, you always have this crazy smile on your face. And it's a smile you never have in any other picture. I mean, you don't smile much in the other pictures, but it's not the I'm with a hot girl smile. It's not I'm shooting a gun smile. It's not I just want a poker smile. It's like this funny childish smile you have when you're having the mushrooms. Can you describe the mushroom smile of Dan Bilzerian?
Yeah, man. It's constant. It's, you know, I'm happy. I'm in the moment. I'm enjoying it. I'm not thinking about other shit. I leave my fucking cell phone. I don't even look at my fucking phone. I don't want fucking, you know, like, I don't want it to be about filming. I'm also not really like thinking that much about pussy. It's one of those things where I'm just like, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And, you know, usually I'll start off shrooming with surfing or free diving or some activity so I can burn off a lot of that energy. And then I'll come down with some weed and fucking just have a great, happy, relaxed, you know, fucking amazing cheat meal afterwards. And it's some of my best days have been on mushrooms.
Wow.
So, and it's not a crazy amount, you know, I don't do like crazy amounts, but, you know, 2-3 grams is enough to just fucking have an amazing day.
Yeah, we talked last time and you were like, I keep it pretty low doses because I'm a control freak. And but it sounds like you've upped your doses a little bit. You know, 4 or 5 grams is like heroic dose where you probably want to be alone for that stuff. but it sounds like you've been expanding it a little bit.
Yeah, I would recommend anybody starting mushrooms to start off with like a half a gram, maybe a gram, probably a half a gram, just to just get the feeling, just understand like, okay, this isn't going to be some crazy thing. This isn't that big of a deal, not to get freaked out, because what you don't want to do is what I did and do fucking like, I don't even know. I did probably like 4 grams my first time I did mushrooms in Amsterdam in a fucking watching Pirates of the Caribbean. I thought that would be cool because, you hear stories about that's more of an acid thing, right? But I don't know, man. I got sick. I felt like shit, and then I wanted to stop. And once you want it to stop and it doesn't stop, then you fucking, freak out because of that. And it's this whole shitty thing. But when you do small amounts and you get the feeling of it, and you're like, wow, this is great. Like, color's more vibrant. I'm happy. This is fun. Like, time slowed down a little bit. I'm enjoying this. I'm connecting. My ego's, removing a little bit and whatever. And you start like understanding what it does, then you can start upping it, and you're going to go in there with a more positive outlook, and you're not going to be freaked out. And you're going to realize like, okay, I just got to let go and enjoy this trip and not try and control everything and, whatever. And I also, usually my settings are pretty good. Like, I do it in warm weather. I do it, a lot of times on the water, I do it with close friends. And so I think if you put the ingredients in there right, like, it's almost impossible to have a bad trip. So you can start going a little bit heavier, and you build a tolerance too a little bit. But I don't do mushrooms a ton. I do them maybe like once a month. It's like maybe once every 2 months. It's not very frequent, and I like just try and just have the setting perfect and everything. To me, it's like a special experience, because I don't do it a ton, and I think the next day I'm kind of like a little bit low serotonin, so I try and make it worth it.
Yeah, it is almost like
mushroom. So anyway, sorry, went off on the mushroom tangent.
No, but so I want to stay on the mushroom for 1 second, because first of all, Dan Bilzerian just said you like it because it reduces the ego. So the internet just broke, because the perception of you is you're all about the ego, but here you are having a compound that reduces your ego, and you like that. So,
well, I think a lot of times you like what you don't have, you value things that you don't have or whatever. And I'm also a control freak, and it forces me to like let go of control. So I don't know. And I think ego is probably not a good thing. And so the more you can remove it, I think the better, I guess, the better decisions you would make, right? Like, I think ego drives, the ego and vanity probably drive some bad decisions, or decisions that maybe won't end up in net happiness. They'll increase pleasure. So I think ego focuses on pleasure, and I think I'm trying to focus more on happiness, and they're very different things. They feel similar, but they're different, and I talked about that in the book.
Yeah,
so.
You got a chapter, a whole section, pleasure is not happiness. I think I asked you about that when we were here last time 3 years ago. Well, while we're on that, can you explain that, how pleasure is not happiness?
Well, pleasure functions like a drug. It's like you need more to get that same high, and then eventually you need to just do it to not feel like shit. And it's an intense hit. It's quick dopamine. You fuck a hot chick, or you buy an expensive car or whatever, you're going to get that pleasure spike, and that's going to happen. But if you do it enough, eventually you're going to start to get numb to it. And then you're going to have to do it to not feel like shit, because you're so used to those pleasure spikes that now your baseline is a bit higher, because you're associating pleasure with like your normal, baseline. And then when you don't have a pleasure, or you have absence of pleasure, whatever, then you're kind of like almost a little bit unhappy. I feel like, anyways. Let me go take a quick piss, if that's all right.
Yeah, all right, do it, man. I'm gonna talk while you're missing.
Yeah, 20 seconds.
All right, it's good. So there you go, Dan Bilzerian talking a little bit more about mushrooms. And I asked him about this 3 years ago, and I didn't get these answers. I got some starting bits of those answers. But when Dan comes back, I'm going to ask him a little bit about 2 things he said. One is that the mushrooms allow him to not be in control, and the other one is it makes him not think about pussy, as he said, and which seem to be the 2 things driving Dan. One is control, which is the setup, and the other is the girls. So I just want to ask him about that when he's back, because I think that's pretty interesting. As you know, on London Real, we've been talking about psychedelics since the beginning, and some of our first episodes were ayahuasca experiences where I did a before and after ayahuasca experience. We talked a lot about psilocybin mushrooms. We've had the biggest experts on the planet here to talk about all of these psychedelic experiences, from Graham Hancock to Dennis McKenna, who I went down to Costa Rica with 5 years ago to have an ayahuasca ceremony with Dennis McKenna, the brother of Terrence McKenna, who are like some of the OGs when it comes to the whole psychedelic space. Yeah, I'm just talking about psychedelics. And so two things you said, Dan, is that when you take the mushrooms, you like the fact that you're not in control and you don't think about pussy, which are probably two of the things you seem to enjoy the most with the setup and the girls. By the way, how many girls are in your house right now?
I think 5.
All right, so it's not too crazy.
Oh.
What do you think about that? Is that the mushrooms are kind of nice to take you away from those things temporarily, or have you gotten too deep? Well, you're writing a book about your whole self, so have you thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think like, when you're in a tornado, sometimes the fucking calm is more interesting. It's like, say, like you almost want what you don't have. It's like you need some yin and yang in your life. Like if you just have an abundance of one thing, then it's kind of like like Snickers bars. If you eat Snickers bars are great, but if you eat them for every fucking meal, eventually you're going to want something else. And if all you eat is candy, then a salad will probably sound good eventually. You know what I'm saying? Like even if so I think you need balance, and I'm not like a very balanced person for the most part. I usually just like fucking go all the way in one direction, and then I'll kind of like go in another one. And so I don't know, you spend your whole life like in control of everything. I think it's nice to just force yourself not to. And I think if you spend, a lot of your life focused on pussy, it's good to just not care about it for a little while. And I think, I don't really have sex on mushrooms that much. So, I have in the beginning and then at the end, but like when I'm shrooming, I couldn't even have sex. I tried to one time. I mean, I guess I could, but it was not great. The faces melt. It's just, anyway, so
the face is turning into something. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But it's like a 2-hour or 3-hour window where it's like, I know I'm not going to have sex, which is like,
rare.
I don't have that. So it's like, okay, like I could just completely forget about that. And focus on having fun with my friends or focus on free diet. It's just like removes something that's constantly taking up space in my fucking brain, which is nice,
Yeah. Are you a sex addict?
Yeah, I beat it, but then I backslide. I've been backsliding lately.
But it's something you're like, okay, I've got a problem, or there's something in my brain that keeps me doing this, or that's just you.
Well, I mean, I think it's a combination of things with me. I think I'm definitely like a sex addict, that I beat it. I'm capable of monogamy. I've done it. I can abstain, and I did the same thing with weed. Currently I'm actually back on a lot of my vices right now. Backslid pretty hard. They kind of all go together, It's like when you're hanging out with a bunch of chicks, you don't want to be sober, and if you're fucking a bunch of times, then it's like kind of nice to be high, because it's like, I don't know, man. And then if you're going out partying, like you don't want to be around drunk people sober, and it just kind of all goes together, man. It's like sometimes I'll have like sobriety and I'll just be hanging out with one chick and I'll be hanging out with my buddies. And that's when I'm really fucking happy, is when I'm, doing shit like we're mountain biking, or we're fucking going to the lake, or we're snowmobiling, or we're surfing, whatever the fuck it is, but you're doing like fun, cool guy shit. And then at night you got your girl, you want to have sex, you can have sex, whatever, but it's not like a focal point. When you got a shitload of girls running around the fucking house naked all the time, whatever, and it's like, you're fucking this one, and then it's like so the girl dynamics of like, you're trying to bang each one every day so they're happy, and it's like this whole crazy thing that just like almost consumes you. And it's fun, like, it's definitely fun. I mean, like hooking up with new chicks is fun. It's, it's fun to hook up with a different chick. I could actually have, just like a few chicks here, and if I hook up with each of them separate, like if it's one and then the other, you can go that cycle for a while and you don't get tired of it. It's when you have sex with the same chick over and over and over again, unless you're like really into her, that it becomes monotonous. And so I don't know, man.
But 5 is enough to keep it not monotonous.
Yeah. I mean, And then also when you go out with girls, it's easier to pick up more girls. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we'd go out, you know, with like, I don't know, 5 girls, 6 girls, and would end up coming back to the house like 20 girls or something. And so I don't know. I've found it's either just better to be kind of like with a main chick or a girlfriend or whatever. And, you know, you can do your shit, you know, here or there. I'm much happier when I do that than when I'm just like fully single. But if you're going to be single, you got to be like fully single. You can't kind of be dating a few like the more you're dating, the less you care, and the less you care, the better they treat you, and the more abundance you get, and the more interesting it is. And like when you don't give a shit, then it doesn't stress you out. You know, when you're dating a ton of chicks, if one drops off or one like gets tired of it, like you don't give a fuck.
Right.
And because you don't care, then she comes back, and it's this whole thing. Like so many things in life, man, snowball. You know. And being single is one of them. Like when you're really single and you're dating a bunch of girls and you have a ton of options, you don't put up with any shit, you don't care, and because of that, they treat you better, and it's a whole fucking thing. But when you're dating less girls, then they become attached sooner, and it's counterproductive, and it's weird. Like you treat them better, you spend more time with them, and then now all of a sudden they're not cool with you hooking up with any other girls, but they're not really like good enough to be like a monogamous girl. You know, they're cool enough to be in the rotation, but like, you know, for me to be monogamous or even like have a main chick, like I gotta mentally click with her. We have to enjoy doing the same shit. She has to be cool. She can't be too slutty. Like there's all these fucking things, right? Because, you know, if I'm giving up all this, it's got to be, you know, got to be everything I want, you know.
But you did that for 2 years.
What's that? The monogamy?
Yeah.
I had a girlfriend, and you know, when I was writing that book, I spent a few months on a yacht, and I was traveling Europe, and yeah, I was hanging with one girl, and we were doing couples vacations, and I had a great time. It was nice. It was a nice break, and yeah, it was just like a total break from all my vices.
So that's good, but sooner or later it does deteriorate, and you change as a guy, and then the relationship matures, for lack of a better word, to where.
Well, she was young, man. She was really young. Like she was 19 fucking years old. So it was like one of those things where, I mean, there was like the novelty of it, you know, like the chick that was like, you know, obsessed with you. She thought everything like, and you get to show her all these things for the first time. And she'd never been on a private jet. She'd never been on a fucking yacht. It was like, you know, there's that, you know, aspect of it and the innocence, you know, and she was like, you know, so stoked on everything. Like, I don't know, there was that. And like I said, I was focusing so much of my time on the book and hanging with my friends and doing all this other shit that like when I was done, and then it was like I was spending more time just with her, then it was like the mental disparity and the lack of experience. It was just too much. And I just told her like, look, I need to fuck other girls. Like I can't do monogamy. Like you're just too young. And I was just honest with her, and, you know, we broke up.
Yeah.
So
isn't that interesting how we kind of as men want to be the woman's window to the world, and then that for us is a real fascinating thing. Maybe take the sex and all the other stuff aside. Like for us, it's an important thing, isn't it? That can make a big part of that relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the you know, things that, you know, people like about having kids is showing them the world. Like you get to relive your whole life with your kids. You get to show them, you know, off-roading. You get to throw a baseball with them. You get, you know, they get to fucking ride a bike. There's definitely something in human nature that enjoys showing somebody something for the first time. When I go out off-roading and I take girls in the truck and they've never been off-roading before and their fucking mind is blown, like it makes it more entertaining because they're enjoying it. You know, and so when you get to show somebody something for the first, you know, if you get some chick on the fucking jets, oh yeah, I've been on fucking, you know, 20 jets and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, cool, you know, great, you know, and then you're like, you know, super. But I don't know. I think, like I said, there's something cool about innocence. There's something cool about, you know, being able to show people something for the first time, whether it's a guy, a girl, whatever. Like, I don't know, just I get the same enjoyment out of, you know, showing my little cousin something, you know, or taking him out, whatever. I don't know. And then there's also the appreciation piece too. It's nice, like, you know, to feel appreciated and that things aren't expected. I think a lot of women that have, you know, kind of like been around a bit, you know, they expect things, or, you know, the red carpet's been rolled out for them so much that they expect it. They don't say thank you as much. And that never feels as good, right? Like, if you do something nice for somebody and they expect it, it doesn't feel nearly as good as when they're super stoked about it, obviously. So
yeah, it's interesting though that those things matter to guys like us. I guess in a weird way, that's quite sensitive, right? To notice those things.
I mean, I think it's everybody, man. Like, I think, anytime you give somebody a gift, if they're just like, oh yeah, whatever, it doesn't feel nearly as good as when they start fucking crying and they're excited. I think that's just humans. Like, I think humans are very connected. And so I think when you do something and it brings joy to somebody else, I mean, like, the reason that I do most of my charity is probably selfish reasons, honestly. Like, it makes me happy to make them happy, right? I'm doing it honestly, probably, if I'm being totally fucking 100%, like, more for myself, because I know that when I like to do, I like to make them happy, but I don't know, like, if they didn't give a fuck about what I was doing, like, if it didn't make them happy, then I would get way less pleasure out of it. So I don't know. I think we're innately somewhat selfish creatures, but at the same time, I feel like we're also connected. And I think we get joy out of helping people. I think that's, unless you're a fucking sociopath, like, most people get happy when they make other people happy. So if you have a younger girl and she hasn't experienced a lot of stuff and you get to make her happy all the time, then you get some of that happiness through osmosis a little bit, right? Because, like, if you're making this girl happy all the time, then, it should have that net effect of making you happy too. I don't know.
Yeah,
this is my theory on it.
This is good, man. A lot of people would be surprised that you enjoy making people happy, man. So this is a good sign to see. Look, you mentioned.
If anybody doesn't, they've got a big fucking problem.
I know.
If you as a human being don't like making people happy, or you don't get any joy out of making somebody else happy, you've got a fucking wiring issue or something,
Yeah, it's true. We're all very social animals. I think sometimes as young men, we get into this Rambo mindset. I'm sure you were as a young man. I know I was, where it's me against the world. Fuck everybody. I don't need anybody. But at the end of the day, we are social creatures. Like, we gain.
Yeah, that was me in social training.
Yeah.
See how that worked out.
Yeah, exactly. How did that work out for Rambo? You mentioned you got 5 girls in the house now, and sometimes you have more. You mentioned the dynamic of the harem, and the harem is one of your chapters in the book. But like you said, it's a little tricky, and I was wondering if you could give us a little bit of insight. Not that anybody watching this is ever going to have the high quality problem of the harem, but you mentioned you got to kind of fuck each girl. You got to worry about the dynamic. Maybe you choose not to have the bottom girl or the main girl, but, like, what are some of the things you got to do to keep everybody happy?
So, yeah, this is the whole fucking science behind this, and there wasn't, like, really a fucking manual for me to read, so I had to kind of figure this out on my own. Basically, you need to have, like, it depends. Like, if you're on let's take a trip, for instance. You're on a trip. You need to have 2 to 3 girls that you've already fucked that are stoked on you, that are hot. That needs to be your base, right? Because when I go on trips and then you need a bunch of new hot girls.
Right.
So what I do is I go and I focus on the girls that I know, and I hook up with the girls that I know, and I don't really pay attention to the hot girls that much. I don't hit on them ever. I don't, like, try and fuck them, none of it. And they see these other hot girls that are super into me, and then the girls end up talking and whatever, and then the girls end up wanting to fuck me, or some I don't hook up with. There's definitely trips where I don't fuck every girl on every trip, that's for fucking sure. But, like, you definitely end up hooking up with the new ones. But you do it because they want to fuck you. And if you go out on a trip, like, even if you have 8 or 9 girls, if you're, like, trying to fuck a bunch of girls, and then one girl rejects you, and then another girl rejects you. Now, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, like, he tried to fuck me and I rejected him. And then, like, for a lot of these girls, that's like a feather in their cap. I can't tell you how many girls, when I was hanging out with Bieber, or like, that knew him too, that would be like, oh yeah, he tried to fuck me and I said no. And it's like, bitch, shut up, but that was, like, to them, that was so cool,
Isn't that crazy?
And a lot of them just make it up too. Like, they're like, I remember one time, like, I texted a girl, like, WYD, and she's like, oh, Dan tried to fuck me. And the girl's like, oh, really? What did he do? And she's like, oh, he texted me last night. Like, she's like, oh, what did he text? And she's like, oh, he asked me what I was doing. And then she's like, what happened? And she's like, oh, like, I just told him that I was taking a shower and then I was going to bed. And that was hers like, oh, Dan tried to fuck me. And I said, no. It's like so crazy. But like, that's literally what they'll take is like, and they'll run with that. And then they'll tell everybody. But so anyways, so by doing it the way I do it, which is I focus on the girls that I have been dating or whatever, then when the new ones want to hook up, I mean, listen, you stick a chick on a fucking deserted island for long enough and she's fucking drinking, she's gonna want to have sex, you know? And it's like, if you're the only guy there to have sex, like, and other girls want to have sex with you and you're validated and, you know, the fame doesn't hurt and all the other rest of this fucking shit, like, they're going to want to fuck you. It's just like, it's human nature, you know? It's so I just, you know, that's how the group dynamics usually work on a trip. You can't have too many girls that you've hooked up with. Like, you know, I say 3 is good because, or you could do 1 and a ton of new ones and then just really just kind of focus on the 1. But the problem is then you give that 1 a lot of power because then the girls like are worried about offending her if they fuck you. And, you know, and then she tells all the girls like, oh, like, you know, we're dating, like, you know, I really like him, like, don't hook up with him. And then the girls like try and like form bonds with the other girls to cock block you. So anyway, so like I could go on and on and on about this shit, but the fucking, you know, the point is 3 girls is good because then if you're hooking up with 1 girl, then, you know, if you take 2 and you're fucking 1, then the other one's just like sitting on her ass, like, you know, like whatever. But if it's 3, then you can, you know, hook up with 1, the other 2 are hanging out, whatever, like people don't notice. And if you have a bunch of girls, you know, girls will come, you know, sneak into your fucking room and you'll bang them, nobody even knows. Like, and so I'm getting a ton of pussy and a lot of these girls don't even like realize it. So, I don't know. And then by the end of the trip, it's like most of the chicks have banged me. And so then they've all got that in common and they're cool with it, as opposed to these girls like trying to like one up each other. I'm like, oh yeah, he wanted to hook up with me. And I said, no. Then it's like, now then this other girl will feel stupid if she fucks me because this girl rejected. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's a very important like mindset and mentality. And then you don't also want to have like the fucking, you know, whatever you do, the worst possible thing that you could probably do is have a super hot girl and try and fuck her and have her say no. Because then she'll tell everybody and then she'll set the precedent and she's the fucking hot girl and people want to be like her and blah, blah, blah. So there's like a lot of like do's and don'ts. A lot of ways you could really shoot yourself in the foot. But the way to do it correctly is, like I said, have like a few girls you've hooked up with, a bunch of new ones, focus on the ones that you know until the new ones want to fuck you. And then, you know, and then your rotation's going to fucking increase and whatever. And then as far as like the house, I mean, it's better to live in a city where girls can just come in, hook up and take off and like, hey, I have an hour, you know, I have 2 hours, whatever, set like short time parameters. Vegas makes it more challenging because then you like have to fly girls in and then you're stuck with them for a period of time. I usually try and do the shortest period of time possible. And then you can always extend. Right. But, you know, the worst thing is being like trapped with somebody, you know? So I don't know. It's fucking.
This trip dynamic. Have you ever read a book called Pimp by Iceberg Slim? He's got some similar dynamics. He's got the bottom girl who's the one that's down 100%. And then you got the other girls in the stable and there's a crazy dynamic. But yeah, if there's any feeling of discontent in there, it's got to be squashed right away or you'll have a full-on revolt on your hands.
100%. Yeah, they'll fucking be like, yeah, fuck him, blah, 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 and they'll all bond together over that bullshit. No, you got like the best way to do it is to have a main. That's what I like to do is to have a main girl and she's of the understanding like, listen, I'm going to fuck other girls. You know, it's funny, like that guy, Andrew Tate, he's been blowing up. He's been doing a lot of shit.
Yeah, what do you think of Andrew Cobra Tate?
It's funny, man. I actually talked to him. I've actually been talking to him a decent amount. He's an interesting guy. I respect him being unfiltered. We've got different opinions on some things. We agree on others. We've got a little bit of a different approach. I remember watching like one video where he was like talking about like, you know, I fucked this chick and then I told her that I had to like, you know, go do some fucking work. And she's like, it's 11 o'clock at night. Like I flew in to fucking see you or whatever. And he's like, yeah, but I got to go make some money. And so he went over to this other girl's house or this other girl's hotel and fucked her. And then he was like driving to another girl's place to fuck her. And he like took an Instagram story of him like driving in the car. And then he fucked the third girl and passed out at her place. And then he like and then he woke up to piss at like 8 a.m. and then posted the Instagram story of the video that he took as an Instagram story showing that he was like still out on the streets, like doing stuff. And then he went back to bed, woke up and went back to the other girl's hotel at like 11 a.m. or whatever. And she's like, where the fuck have you been? You know, and he like threw like 20 grand on the thing and like count that, you know, like up and out, making money, whatever. And it was just kind of funny, you know? And I remember I commented, I was like, yeah, I do the same shit. I just don't lie about it. You know? So it's, I don't know. There's like different ways to do it, you know, like I like take big pride on like being honest. But it makes it more difficult sometimes, you know, because a lot of times these girls like want to be lied to. And then also it fucks you up too when they're lying to you and you're telling the truth to them. But what it does do is it establishes like a level of trust that you can't get otherwise. Because if a girl asks you like, oh, like, have you hooked up with any other girls this week? And you're like, yeah, I hooked up with 3 girls, you know, but I use condoms, whatever. Or, you know, or I fucked 4 girls and I use a condom with 3, whatever. She's going to know you're not lying because nobody would lie and say that, you know, like, so by telling her an uncomfortable truth, you actually build trust. And then by you setting that bar of like what's acceptable, then you set a certain frame of like, okay, this is acceptable to do. And if she accepts that, which, you know, they usually do, like sometimes they'll fucking rebel and be like, you know, fuck that, blah, 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 blah. And they'll go back to their boyfriend won't fuck them that good. Or, you know, they'll go out and date some fucking schlep or whatever. They'll fucking, you know, hang out with some Persian dentist and fucking be miserable or whatever. And then they come back and they're like, you know what, like I'll take the good with the bad, you know, and I have fun. I trust you. Like, yeah, I know you're doing fucked up shit, but these guys are also doing fucked up shit. They're just lying about it, you know? So like, sometimes they'll come to that realization and then you can just do anything you want. Like once you set the fucking acceptable standard of like, I'm going to do, you know, this, like I fucked 4 girls last week. And once that's accepted, I'm like, you can do anything. Like what, you know, like what, you know, like, oh yeah, I only fucked 2 girls last week. It's like, oh good, baby. I'm like,
it's a good point,
right? So like, it's all perspective, you know? And so you set that perspective of acceptability. And a lot of these guys, you know, lie and they sell the dream and they tell girls this and that. And like, you're the only one. And they set these unrealistic like expectations and it's like unsustainable. They're going to get caught. Like, it's like a girl that tells me she's only fucked, you know, 1 other guy. It's like, okay, who's the guy? Or she's fucked 3 guys. Okay, who are the guys? She tells me the 3 names. If I meet any other guy in the world that says that they fucked her, I automatically know that she's a liar. If she's like, oh, I fucked, you know, 14 guys, I'm not going to ask the names. I'm not going to remember the names, right? Then it's like if I meet some of these guys, then I'm not going to know that she's a liar. But when they set these like crazy standards of like, I'm not sleeping with anybody, or I've only fucked 3 people, it's like easy to catch them lying. Like I actually hooked my ex up to a fucking lie detector test and threw her out of the fucking house. An FBI fucking lie detector guy bring in his fucking test and set it up in my fucking movie theater and actually like went through a full-on lie detector test.
And did she fail?
Yeah, I think she was gonna fucking fail. I mean, I'm pretty good at like reading people. And it's funny, like I wasn't even in a monogamous relationship with her. And I told her, like I'd fucked 5 girls that week. It's not like, you know, and we've been broken up. It's just, you know, she just like hooked up with a dude and lied about it. I'm just like, I wouldn't have given a fuck if she hooked up with a dude. Like, just be honest, you know? So for me, it like, honesty is much more important than, you know, than purity or the perception of purity.
Yeah.
Because I realize we're fucking human beings, and I've fucked girls that have low body counts, and usually like one of the first questions I'll ask a girl is, how many guys have you fucked? It's going to tell me a lot. It's going to tell me if she's full of shit or she's boring. Those are the 2 verdicts if the number's low.
Right.
If the number's high, she's honest and she's adventurous.
Right.
So like, I don't know. I mean, if it's a low number and it's true, I'm like, okay, I respect that. You know, like, I mean, but a lot of times those girls that have only fucked 3 guys, they're naturally going to be much more risk averse. They're probably going to be less adventurous. I mean, it's just, you know, human nature, right? So that number tells me a lot.
So what's the ideal body count for Dan Bilzerian or for a girl there right now in the mansion? What is it?
Oh man, it depends. Like, I mean, if it depends on if it's for a girlfriend, for a main, for a side chick, whatever. Like if it's just for a girl that I'm fucking, I'd rather have a high body count that she's honest about, and then I go get her tested, and usually fuck her with a condom. But like, we've got that level of honesty, and she's probably going to be fun and adventurous and whatever. So, but if it's a girl that I'm going to be like seriously dating, I'd probably prefer it not to be crazy.
Give me some numbers here. Is a high body count like 40 and a low one is 10? No.
It depends on age and circumstance. There's so many factors that go into it, and how she went about it. Like if a girl has been in a lot of long-term relationships, then obviously a high body count is less acceptable than if she's been single. And so I don't know. I think there's it just depends, and situationally too. She's like, oh, I had a big whore phase in high school or college or whatever, and she knocked out like a big number, and then she, kind of like slowed down. That's probably different than, I don't know. I mean, it's just like I said, man, it's situational. If she's, fucked a bunch of, people that that's obviously less acceptable for it's unacceptable for dating. But like, you know what I'm saying? There's just kind of how it went about, like.
But this is like standard opening question for you. It's just like, what's the body count? You kind of want to get to know what the deal is. And that number tells you a lot. And the way they tell it to you is a lot. Hey, it's Brian Rose, founder of the DeFi Academy. I've told you my 4-week crypto bootcamp is amazing, but don't take my word for it. This is what my students are saying.
The DeFi Academy was an amazing experience for me. It took me totally out of my comfort zone.
In this course, I was challenged, I was held accountable, and pushed to do things that honestly weren't always easy.
It's been phenomenal, and I can't believe we're already up on our 4 weeks. It has flown by.
Going through this DeFi accelerator by far was one of the best courses I've taken.
You do this course, you really get into the nitty-gritty of the activities that will make you comfortable with decentralized finance.
Thank you so much to Brian and everyone at London Real and the DeFi Academy for even putting together an amazing course like this.
Anybody else that wants to do it, please sign up. It is well worth the money.
I just want to see, I mean, they're always almost lying about it.
Right.
So
it's a lie detector test, really. It's your lie detector test.
It is. So I ask them because I know they're going to lie to me for the most part. And so I look at them when they're lying to me, and I can predict future lies. Like, how do they act when they're lying? It's like poker. It's like if I know you're bluffing, I'm going to study you, and and sometimes I'll actually pay off your bet, if I just to see if you are bluffing, or whatever, just to, or if I know that you have it. A lot of times I'll just pay off that bet to ensure that you do have it. And then it's like, okay, I know how you act when you've got it. Right. Now let's see how you act when you don't have it. So it's like, I ask that question almost knowing full well that they're going to lie to me, just to kind of study them and see how uncomfortable they get and how they answer it. And then also then it allows me to catch them lying later too, because a lot of times they'll give me crazy fucking numbers like, oh, I've only fucked 3 or 4 guys. And it's like, okay, we're going to figure this out pretty quick. I don't know, man.
So honesty,
I find psychology interesting.
Honesty is a very rare commodity, and you value it very high, because with someone who's honest with you, you know a lot and you can take things a long way. Sounds like that's something that's important to you.
I can't date anyone seriously or be friends with anyone that's not honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Which in LA or in the circles you run, there must be a lot of dishonest people, or people that exaggerate, or people that want to be other people. I don't know.
Yeah. LA is a shithole. That's why I don't live there anymore. That and COVID and the liberalism.
You're in Vegas now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So couple more questions. Oh, you keep mentioning condoms and STDs. When I was in your hotel room in London, when we did your last interview, there was condoms everywhere. And one of my camera guys was offended. He was like a feminist, and that's okay. But I was like, why are you offended? He has condoms there. And he's like, well, I don't know what he's trying to say. And I'm like, I don't know if he's trying to say anything. He just has condoms. But what is your policy with condoms, STDs? And then are there rules as far as this is a no orgy night, don't be coming into my bed, or how does it all work?
First of all, that guy's a bitch. Number one.
That's what I thought.
Number two, I was, I don't know. I'm just I've been pretty good about it. You have to always wear condoms or else it fucks you up. You can't Or you could only not wear them with like your main girl, but like you can't be like picking and choosing or like, oh, I think this girl's a little bit more slutty, I'll use one with her. Like you just got to use them all the time or else it's going to fuck you up. You're going to be like, oh, you know, this doesn't feel as good, or I want to take this off. It'll just like, it'll take you out of the moment. And like, and then also like, you'd be like, oh fuck, I can't, you know, this just doesn't feel as good. And then you have a hard time keeping your dick hard. Like there's just all these shitty things that come with like so you just use them all the time and you don't even notice. It's
right.
Like
discipline.
You know.
Discipline.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, wearing a fucking seatbelt in the car. You know, it's like if you wear it every fucking time, it's like you don't even notice. You just fucking put the thing on and forget about it. You know, if you never wear a seatbelt and then all of a sudden you got to fucking put this thing on, it's like, this is uncomfortable. You know, whatever.
Okay.
So I don't know. If you're putting up fucking crazy, it also just helps me not care too. Like if I'm wearing a condom, I don't care if girls are fucking other dudes. Like, I don't give a shit.
Right.
But if I'm fucking without a condom, then I do care. Like, you know what I mean? Then it's like, okay. You know, now we can get you fucking tested. It's like, you know, I don't know. It's just, I just don't want to think about it. I don't care. It's like, whatever. Like, fuck whoever you want. I don't give a shit. Like, I don't have to worry about getting pregnant. I don't have to worry about STDs. And honestly, it's like, and just like, just anything. Like, I don't know. It's just less headache, you know?
Yeah, the pregnant thing's a good point. Like, you don't have to worry about it ever, or a accusation or a hint or a paranoia, because you're like, no.
Well, I'm shooting testosterone, so the chances of me getting a girl pregnant is pretty fucking non-existent. But
does that drop all sperm counts down? And
pretty low, yeah. I mean, you can get it back. You shoot HCG and do like a post-cycle protocol or whatever. But yeah, when you're shooting tests, yeah, you're pretty much sterile. So
okay, gotcha. Well, that's
while you're on it.
That can be good. I'll get into that, and I want us to get through the rest of the book. But just on the girl thing, do you have like rules, like when you go on a trip? Like obviously the book's got crazy stories of the crazy orgies, a lot of the sex stuff. But Dan Bilzerian today in 2022, when you go out on a trip, is it like, look, or you're in your jet, is it like, look, I don't need all the girls to take their clothes off and jump on me at the same time? Are there protocols, or is it just kind of like they know your vibe and you just go with what feels right?
Well, I have a bed on the plane, so usually I'll just like lay in bed, eat a weed brownie, watch some movies or whatever. You know, the girls that I'm kind of like, you know, that I want in the bed, I'll let them in there. And, you know, sometimes we hook up, sometimes we don't. But I don't know. It's like it's never really like for film. It's never really like, oh, like get in the bed, let's get a photo, like, or any of that shit. I just live my life, and like, we probably capture 5% of my shit, if that, you know, 5% of the good stuff, and miss most of it. But like what we get is organic, and the internet sees through it. You know, you see all these fucking douchebags on there, like trying to be like me, and they set up a photo, or they have like all these fucking girls come and everybody's like posed and shit. It's just like not natural. The guy's probably not fucking them, or they're hookers, or it's just not the same, you know? Like, I don't know. I just try and just do my thing, and we capture it, and you know, it is what it is. If we can capture it, like I said, a lot of times you don't, you know, like the last trip we did, but for like, fuck man, almost like 3 years, I barely posted anything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, you said last time you were here in London, you're like, I'm coming off social, and everybody's jaw dropped. They're like, how can Dan come off social? You also said you're going to be president one day, which maybe you will be, but you kind of did.
I pretty much did drop off social though. For like,
yeah, you did.
3 years almost.
Yeah. Yeah, you did, which was very surprising. And now when you're on, you literally do like a 4-second story or something. One that always is like, well, where's the rest? At least give me 4 more seconds. It's always just like, whoosh. But like you said, then people know it's real. It's not staged.
A lot of people do bitch that my stories are so short or they're choppy or whatever. To me, it's kind of like, I don't know, I'm just showing people a quick snippet. I just don't want it to be about like filming. I just hate, I don't know. I just hate social media so much. I do it because it's helped my company, and like our fucking nicotine vape sales are just absolutely murdering it right now. We're going into, you know, all these different countries. We're in fucking Africa, we're in South America, we're in the fucking UAE, we're in fucking Armenia, we're going to Russia, we're going to be in the entire fucking EU by the end of the year. You know, we just got a big order into fucking Indonesia. So we're like, it's literally like worldwide sales. In fact, like the US sales are just peanuts compared to what we're doing worldwide.
Yeah.
So we've been focusing much more on our worldwide nic sales because the US regulatory environment's so shitty, And I don't know, it makes the brand worth a lot more too, because if you're in all these different fucking countries, now you've got a worldwide brand. Now you're valuable to fucking, big tobacco. Now, you've penetrated markets. You've shown that, the brand has, reach. And I think, it's a big deal. Look, they could ban fucking vape in the US tomorrow. And if you're, you have a fucking US vape company, you're worthless, right? So to me, it was diversification. And honestly, 80% of my following is outside the US anyway. So like, our best markets have been outside the US. Like, we're fucking killing it in like random places. Like, we just put in a $7.5 million a month order to fucking South Africa of all places. Like the Congo put in a $2 million order. Like, you know what I mean? Just random. Like Paraguay, $10 million. Like fucking, just random.
That's a beautiful thing. That's something you never see in a company like that because of who you are and your social. Tell me about Ignite, because I saw you going, I think, over to UAE with all the girls, and I was like, wow, how does that go over there? And obviously it's going over well. When you were here 3 years ago, it sounds like you're much more involved with the company now than you were. Is that true? And is it about, like you said, international nicotine sales as opposed to, say, domestic cannabis sales these days?
Oh, we're out of cannabis.
Okay.
Yeah, fuck weed, man. That was a motherfucker. I mean, it's just like such a joke. I mean, like every post that I did was like dropping a fucking atomic bomb on an anthill, because like we could sell in a small area and then we're reaching this huge area. Nicotine vape, we can sell everywhere. So that's all over the fucking place.
Okay.
Our tequila, we can sell everywhere. Like we just put in fucking big orders of tequila, South Africa of all places, so yeah, that's what we're focusing on right now. And that's what I should have been focusing on early on. I just want to do the weed because I've always smoked weed.
Yeah.
But yeah, the nicotine vape that's the future. I mean, it's getting people off cigarettes. It's a much healthier alternative. Like people don't, like anybody around you doesn't have to now smell that fucking dog shit. It doesn't fuck their lungs up. If you're smoking in the car, now your kids get fucking, cancer. They get shit in their lungs. It's not even their fucking choice. You're smoking in the house. Your kids got to breathe that shit. Vape is just unequivocally the answer. It doesn't fuck with people around you. I am a big advocate of like, people can do whatever the fuck they want that doesn't affect other people around them. And to me, smoking cigarettes affects other people around you, and I can't fucking stand it.
Yeah.
And so I'm pretty happy to like offer an alternative to that. So we've been, like I said, man, focusing on that. When I was writing the book, I was focusing a lot more on like the fundamentals of Ignite. Before I was focused like almost solely on the marketing. And now I've kind of been diving back more into the marketing. Because it's just got such an impact, man. Like, my videos, like nobody gets views like me. Like The Rock doesn't, Kylie Jenner doesn't. Like, I think I probably get more views than any other Instagram account in the world.
You called The Rock out the other day, didn't you? You called The Rock out on his video count or something, and you were like, what the hell?
Nothing, dude. I mean, look here, those are the, can you see the numbers? I just
Joe, you posted.
There we go. Can you see those? I mean, bro, that's fucking 40 million, fucking 30 million,
right?
49 million. Like, just go look at The Rock's. Go look at mine. Go look at Kylie Jenner's.
Right, and The Rock has like 5x the subscribers, but he's got less views. Something like that.
He's got 100x because most of them are fake.
Right.
But, whatever. All these guys are buying fucking fake followers. I mean, it's like, you look at all these accounts. I mean, like, I don't know, man. I could name a bunch of them, but I don't want to fucking embarrass these people. But like, just go look at their following and then go look at the view count. They might buy likes, but like, go look at their views. That's how many people are watching their shit, right? And so, and obviously mine are fucking inflated because I probably have twice as many people fucking watching me that aren't following me because they have my notifications on, because I'm getting more views than I have followers. So mine is a bit of an anomaly, but still. Rock supposedly got 350 million followers. The guy gets 3 million fucking views. I got 30 million. I'm getting fucking 50 million. Like, come on. You know what I mean? Like, something's not fucking right there.
So you got more organic traffic than anybody on social, basically.
I think anybody in the world. Yeah. I don't know anybody that gets more views than me. I mean, obviously, like, people bought followers and whatever, and people have legitimate followers or whatever. But as far as people watching an account, I don't think there's one. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there is. I haven't found one. I mean, The Rock, Kylie Jenner. I mean, I look at all these people. I mean, look at the biggest. I don't know what the top 5 biggest accounts are on the internet, or the top 10, but it's not even. I don't think they're close.
And how do you do that?
Sorry, The Rock doesn't have 100x followers. There's 10x, right?
Yeah, 10x.
10, 15.
So how do you do it? Just by keeping it real?
I've just been doing this a while, man. Like, yeah, the internet sees through bullshit. Like, if you're not doing authentic things, like, it's pretty easy to see, I think. Like, I mean, I don't know. I think people find it interesting that I'm unfiltered. I don't apologize. I don't give a fuck. You know, you don't see me posting fucking black squares because everybody else is fucking posting black squares. You don't see me fucking, you know, like, posting all this bullshit that they fucking post. Like, I just do my thing, man. Like, I don't follow the fucking crowd. I never wanted to do it when I was a kid. I don't do it now. Like, I do my own thing, and I think people find it interesting. Like, I think there's a lot of people probably living a similar lifestyle to me. Probably a lot of rich guys that do it. You know, maybe not exactly like that, but you know, they're doing it. They're, you know, they're fucking have a company, or they can't. You know, they're lying to the girls, or whatever the case is. But like, there's not a lot of guys that just like really are owning their fucking shit and doing it, because it's not easy. Like, it's not easy unless you're fucking hookers, which I've never really been into, you know, but it would make my life a lot easier. I mean, I have fucked hookers. I just, you know, it's 1 out of fucking, you know, 500 or 1,000 is maybe a hooker, but like, you know, I mean, or maybe more, but I'm saying I'm not paying them. Like, I'm not like, hey, come over here, I'll give you $1,000, whatever. Like, maybe, you know, a lot of girls in LA have sugar daddies and shit like that. So I guess it's kind of like a fine line between what's a hooker and what isn't, but I'm not paying them. Let's put it that way. So, and not for any reason other than just like, I feel like sex isn't good if I feel like it's transactional. And I've said this a million times. I don't care why they want to fuck me, as long as it's not just because of a fixed amount of money. Right. But it would make my life a lot easier if I did. And I hats off to anybody that does. They have a lot more time in their life, and they've wasted less time. So, you know, they could do the same thing I do, just, you know, less headache. But like I said, I can't get off. I feel like the chick is just banging me. And I don't think the sex is as good if it's transactional either, you know?
Yeah, that's a good perspective. And what about the guys that are trying to be like you? I mean, do you see versions of that coming up? And do you see, it was interesting that you saw Tate and you're like, okay, I kind of like his vibe, and was talking to him. Not that he's trying to be like you, but what do you see when you see Instagram?
Well, Tate's a very different guy. I don't think he's trying to be like me, actually. He's kind of got his own thing. You know, there's been guys that have like literally tried to do exactly what I'm doing or whatever. He hasn't really been very girl centric. His is more, he's getting, and he's doing a totally different strategy. He's getting other people to post about him. And he's selling like online life coaching and stuff. So, and he's doing a lot of interviews. He's, you know, they're taking controversial clips. He's, you know, he's doing like some pretty aggressive takes and stuff to get clicks and whatever. So he's actually taken a very opposite approach of what I did. I didn't do a ton of interviews. I obviously never did any life coaching. I didn't have anybody else posting my shit. And his views are a little bit different. He's like, you know, he wants girls that haven't hooked up with anybody. And he also, you know, he lies to him. I tell him the truth. I mean, you know, not knocking his shit. It's just, we're just very different. We've got similar viewpoints on certain things though. And I respect his unfiltered takes, you know, like I don't care if I agree with you or not. I respect somebody that takes a fucking like controversial opinion and runs with it and doesn't apologize. You know, that's rare these days. Like, everybody's apologizing. Everybody's fucking like putting disclaimers before they say things. Everybody's worried about being canceled. Like, I'm not cancelable. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't care. I don't give a shit if people stop following me. I don't give a fuck if I don't endorse shit. I've been offered tons of fucking money to endorse things. I don't promote anything. So I'm not, you know, it's not like fucking Nike's going to cancel me. Like, I wouldn't wear their fucking shoes if they paid me. So, you know, fuck those guys. And, you know, fuck all those like super fucking woke organizations. I wouldn't want to be a part of them if they fucking paid me fucking $20 million. So to me, I'm not cancelable. You know, I don't like feminists. I mean, I don't agree with them. I mean, and they probably don't like me, and I don't give a fuck. I think like men should have traditional male roles, and females shouldn't be shamed for having, you know, traditional female roles. I don't think, you know, biological men should compete in women's sports. Like, I mean, I think fucking pretty logically. I don't give a shit if you want to chop your dick off. I don't care if you're gay. I don't give a fuck. Like, every one of my assistants has always been gay. Like, I hang out with gay people all the time. I don't give a fuck. Like, but I don't think that they should be able to compete in fucking women's sports. Like, I don't think you should ruin women's sports. I mean, like a 15-year-old male beat like every female record. Like, so it's a clear advantage. Like we've got, not only is it bone structure, lung capacity, like hormonal, I mean, it's just unequivocally men have a physical advantage. So they should be separated because of that. They want to have a trans division? I don't give a fuck. Okay, fine. Do a trans division. You know, they've got tons of other divisions. So I don't know. I just look at like this, like, oh, I'm so worried about offending everybody. Like, I want a virtue signal. I want to show everybody how fucking good I am. It's like, most of these fucking cunts that are out there virtue signaling don't give a fuck about anybody but themselves. They're like super selfish assholes, and they're preach all this tolerance, and they're the most intolerant cocksuckers on the planet. Like the liberals nowadays, the super liberals are the most intolerant people I've ever fucking seen. And they're also really fucking stupid, and they can't think for themselves. They just follow whatever their fucking narrative is. It's like they're a bunch of fucking robots regurgitating whatever the latest fucking script is. I mean, I just look at them and I laugh. Like they're just fucking clowns. And I think the world is starting to figure it out, but they had such a stronghold on like the media and Hollywood and all this shit that they were able to pump this like nonsensical fucking narrative to the point where like people were afraid to be canceled. I was never afraid to be canceled. I told them to go fuck themselves from day one, and I'll tell them to go fuck themselves now. And you won't catch me apologizing for jack shit. So, you know, I mean, that's my fucking stance.
We need more of that. It's hard to watch sometimes from over here, Dan, because in America, you guys have taken it to the next level. And sometimes I feel like I'm watching a science fiction movie. The good news is
and worse is Australia and Canada.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's like fucking Nazi Germany over there.
And it seems like it's coming back a little bit. But, you know, for a while, every tech company, everything out there was promoting that one narrative. And like literally you could get dropped if you went against that. It seems like it's coming back a little bit more.
I watch way too many fucking people bend the knee. Like Joe Rogan apologized. Like, what a fucking joke. Like,
you didn't think,
their own.
Yeah, you didn't think he should have apologized or did the wrong thing there?
Fuck no. What a fucking pussy. Unbelievable.
It wouldn't have mattered either way, right? He said he got more followers on the back of that controversy.
I've gotten more followers on negative shit than anything else.
Okay.
And it's funny because right when he was getting fucking all his shit and they were fucking going after him, I was getting fucking bad press in the fucking, you know, media. Oh, Dan's going broke. He's fleeing the country. Ignite's going bankrupt. All this other shit. It's like, we've done over 100 million in fucking vape sales. Like, I've never had more fucking money. Like, these people are so fucking stupid. And Joe Rogan like took off the video of he and I on his fucking channel because like I was getting bad.
Really?
Yeah, what a pussy. Yeah, so funny, man.
So you
would think like of all the people, like he basically got shit for fucking like, you know, using horse dewormer and all this other fucking shit. Literally in the midst of getting just roasted online for nothing but nonsense. This idiot's going to just go and like watch some YouTube videos and say like, oh, you know, fucking, you know, they must be true about Dan. Like, I used to think that he was more of a critical thinker than that. I was actually pretty unimpressed.
Why do you think he did it? Because of the UFC or because of his comedy career, or he felt guilty, or?
I mean, a lack of intelligence and a lack of backbone. I think that's probably what it is, because if he was smart, he would have, you know, like, he was like texting me like, hey brother, blah, 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 like all this fucking shit, you know, and then like, I got some bad press. And then all of a sudden, like, you know, he's like, wants to distance himself. The Rock did the same thing to Logan Paul. Logan Paul got shit about the Suicide Forest.
Yeah.
He deleted all his fucking videos. Didn't want to fucking, you know, after being like all buddy with him and all this shit, like deleted it. Like, they're just fucking pussies, man. They're puppets, you know, they don't have, I mean, listen, when you got $100 million, you shouldn't be a fucking puppet to anybody. You should tell everybody to go fuck themselves.
I know.
That's the whole fucking point of having money, is to have your own fucking independence. And these guys have money and they're so fucking greedy that they're willing to give up their fucking, you know, independence to get more fucking money that they don't need. And so to me, that's the ultimate sellout. It's one thing when you're coming up and you don't have money and like, you know, you're fucking fighting to make ends meet or whatever. But when you're worth $100 million, you shouldn't be taking shit from anybody. You should have your own fucking viewpoints. You should say what the fuck you want to say. You shouldn't be worried about shit. I mean, that's my opinion. That's always what I've done.
So your episodes on Rogan got taken off?
He took them off. He took them off YouTube.
Off YouTube.
And it was like it was the third most watched episode he ever had too.
And it's gone.
Yep.
Yeah, it really, the one thing that bothered me, and look, I was on Rogan back in 2012, and for us coming up and as a podcast, it was a big deal for him to recognize us. But the thing that really bothered me about the Spotify deal was he pulled so much of his content off YouTube, which means it's on Spotify, which means it's no longer searchable, which means it's almost like it never happened. And there was so much stuff on there that now goes. And then, of course, Spotify goes and deletes a bunch of other episodes. And then now all of a sudden, a part of history, I remember your episode on Rogan, is no longer there. That really bothered me.
Well, I mean, I get that. For $100 million, I'd take the fucking episodes off too. So I'm not going to knock him for that. Listen, I'll give credit where credit's due. I mean, fucking, you signed a $100 million deal. Cool. I mean, if I had to take off all my shit off fucking Instagram for $100 million, fuck it. It's off. I don't give a shit.
It still bothered me because it's almost like part of history is missing though somehow.
I get it. I mean, I get it. But
yeah.
Listen, $100 million, $100 million, and he wasn't a rich guy before that. So, I mean, he had some money, but like,
yeah, I guess it's his content.
Puts you in a level of like, you don't have to fucking worry about money anymore.
Right.
I mean, that's a benchmark for sure.
Right.
Like after 100 million, your life doesn't improve that much with more money. I mean, there's a jump, bigger plane, fucking better houses, yacht, whatever. But like your lifestyle doesn't really improve that much. 100 million is kind of like, to me, it's the minimum to have like, fuck you money. I think 100 million is fuck you money. Right. In excess of that is good. But like that to me is kind of the minimum, because you can have a plane, you can have a house, you got staff, you don't have to worry about shit. I mean, you can't live like a fucking total asshole. You can definitely spend 100 million. Like it's not like,
right.
But you're doing all right, you know?
Okay. Got it. But he should have not cowered and taken content down or apologized. That's what you're saying.
Well, okay. No. Content, listen, they pay him $100 million to own his content. That's fine. I think that's totally fine. Him apologizing, that's some bitch ass shit. Like, fuck that. Apologize because you want to apologize, not because you're being shamed into it or because they're telling you to fucking do it. Like, fucking own your shit. Like, I'll apologize if I'm wrong, but, I don't think he thought he was wrong. He apologized because they pressured him into apologizing. If he thought it was wrong, he would have apologized a long time ago, not as soon as they gave him pressure. He knows what he did. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Who out there still doesn't apologize? Is it like Trump? You? Are there other people that just refuse to?
There's a small few.
Tate, I guess Tate. I mean,
we're a small club.
I got, Dan Pena, who's been on my show. He's the fucking guy with the castle in Scotland. He just doesn't give a shit. And, when I see Tate or you get so popular and all the outrage, the fact that they're so popular shows me that this commodity, Dan, of the truth is so valued by whoever's watching them, which is probably a bunch of guys, probably a bunch of girls too, who are like, wow, something so precious, just called the truth, is just coming out, or a perspective that someone's willing to share. For me, it's just a sign that there's something wrong with the world, that all of a sudden there's so much cut through. I'm looking for partners, collaborators, colleagues who want to join forces with me around the globe and create real value, generational wealth, and financial freedom for everyone else around the world. Get involved in the cryptocurrency markets, get involved in the NFT markets. This is your moment. Life all comes down to a few moments. Don't let this pass. Now it's not too late. Next year's going to be too late. Ultimately, this is about freedom. That's the way I see it. This is about giving power back to the people and enabling billions of people worldwide to use the financial markets to improve their lives and those of their friends and their families and their communities. Honestly, I think it's a violation of human rights not to allow people basic access to financial services. Because right now people are being kept in the dark, they're being robbed of education, and it's a travesty. And so I'm looking for people that want to join me and be a part of this solution. And that all happens inside the DeFi Academy. The gains my students are making are absolutely amazing. Double, triple-digit gains in the first month alone. That's amazing. This will change your life. Now is the time to get involved. I'm going to tell you exactly how my students in my academy made money in the last 30 days. I'm talking about real trading results. And let me just whet your appetite a little bit. Let me hit you with some numbers. I'm talking Brendan from New Zealand is up 68.77% on the month. Steve from Europe up 83%. Albert in Singapore up 169.9% on one single trade. I got Susan up 153% on her call options alone, also rocking 139% returns and 442% returns as well on individual trades. These are people that are changing their financial future in the last 30 days, but it's based on trading discipline.
I've graduated over 500 students from inside my academy from over 54 countries around the world. It's amazing. When it comes to crypto, DeFi, and blockchain, we love this space. We truly believe it's the future. This is down to our core. It's authentic to what we're doing, and everybody can tell through the camera because you can't make this stuff up. If you're watching me now, wherever you are, I implore you, take 60 seconds right now and join my academy. Apply today. Now you've got a chance. Life all comes down to a few moments. What are you gonna do? What's the choice that you're going to make?
People are scared, man, and the truth is probably one of the like most valuable commodities in the world, and it's hard. And like this new generation is coming up, and they're lying about all sorts of shit, and lying is normalized. And you know, it's one of those things where I don't know, people value things that are rare. That's why they value gold. Gold is fucking everywhere, and nobody give a shit about it. You know what I'm saying? Like rare things people value, and so in this day and age, having the balls to say what the fuck you think and say what you mean and be honest is rare. And so, you know, that's why people value it. And that's why when people see, that's why tape blew up so fucking fast, because here's a guy that's just saying it fucking, you know, whether it's how it is or not, it's how he sees it, you know, and whatever. I don't agree with everything he says. I don't agree with everything Trump says. I don't agree with anything. There's not probably a person in the world where I agree with everything they say. I don't give a fuck. Like, you're entitled to your own opinion. Have your own opinion. It's fine. That's what makes conversation interesting. I don't want a motherfucker that agrees with every single fucking thing I ever say. How interesting is that conversation going to fucking be? I want somebody that's going to disagree with me, and then we're going to argue. And in arguing, I'm actually going to learn more, you know? So sometimes I'll fucking I'll take a stance that I actually don't even believe in just to see how strong the guy's argument is on the other side, or how strong I can argue that point. You know what I mean? Like, you learn things like that. You learn things by talking things through. And if, like I said, if you just agree with everything somebody fucking says, well, okay, that's going to be pretty fucking boring pretty quick.
Are you going to run for president someday?
Oh man, probably the worst fucking thing I ever do. Probably the most miserable 4 years of my life. But I think I'll probably do it. I think it's probably like the most, as long as you do it in the right way, I think it's probably the most sacrifice that you could give for the benefit of mankind. I think it's the biggest impact, and it would probably be some of the biggest cost. Because I mean, man, like, you see it with fucking, you know, Biden. I mean, granted, he's a complete fucking dipshit, but honestly, like, I'm not even mad at him. Like, the guy's got dementia. Like, it's fucking like, it's like elderly abuse at this point. It really is. Like, he has no fucking business in office. I mean, he can't even read a fucking teleprompter. Like, he's clearly not running the show. It's a fucking joke. Everybody talks shit about him. Everybody hates him. Same thing with Trump. I mean, now, like, with social media, like, everybody just talks shit. Like, the amount of shit talking, it's just like, it's come to a fucking like astronomical level. And the president is just going to get heat no matter what. You're going to be like so fucking hated. I think I'm one of the few people that's probably like conditioned to deal with that. You know what I mean? Because I've gotten so much like bad press, bullshit press. Like 95% of the press that I've had against me has been completely fucking untrue. You know, so I'm used to it. Like, and it takes a while. Like, you have to really numb up. And I think like through the poker, that helped me fucking be a little bit more, you know, numb to things. But why did
poker help? Why did poker help you get numb?
Because you have to mute your emotions. You know, when you're winning big, you can't be fucking like internally celebrating. Fucking, you know, when you're losing, you can't get upset. You can't let things affect you. So you have to just like mute it.
Right. And you think being president would be one of the most self-sacrificial things that you could do, which most people don't look at it that way. They think people running for office is like an expression of ego and looking for power and glory.
Well, most people do it for money. You know what I mean? They do it because they want to fucking make money, and they do it because it's power and it leads to money and this and that. But like my goal would be to be a billionaire, to give away like, you know, half my net worth or whatever, go in there with like 500 million and make a cap, like to where I could never be worth more than 500 million. Any dollar that goes over that, I'm just going to give to charity, become uncorruptible, and then go in there just for the love of the game, you know, not to like try and get power to make more money or whatever it is. So I think people get addicted to that and they do it for the wrong reasons.
Are you patriotic? Would you do it for the country?
I don't know.
Okay. Because it's just the right thing to do for humanity?
More for humanity, yeah.
And a challenge?
Well, definitely a fucking challenge, yeah.
You know, I spent 7 months running to be the next mayor of London. And it was a brutal process. And like, I went around and drove 5,000 miles in a bus to every single borough. And we spent a ton of money. And I would meet fucking old ladies on the street and they would tell me this and tell me that. And I'm telling you, there was nothing egotistical about doing that. It was like one of the most ego-destroying experiences of my life. It was like, it's not what people think it is, you know? And if I would have got the job, the service of that would have been probably even more difficult. I mean, in Britain too, I mean, bashing politicians is even more of a sport than in America, probably, with the press here.
Yeah, I remember you running for mayor or whatever that was. That was like a whole thing.
It was a whole thing, man. We went hard. I was an independent candidate, so I was already stacked against me a little bit, but I was coming off the you know, we had a whole censorship fight with YouTube because I continued to broadcast during COVID. I put big messages out. They tried to block our channel. I kept streaming, and I was out there like literally in the streets. We didn't miss a day of work here through all of COVID. We just kept broadcasting all these ideas from scientists, from theorists, conspiracy theorists. I just wanted people to have the right to say stuff. So we almost got taken off YouTube. All the social banned us, Dropbox threw us off, PayPal shut us down. But we just kept going. And towards the end of that, I was like, the whole city was shut down. Everyone's losing their businesses, losing their minds. And I was like, I got to run for mayor if I really want to make a difference. So I did it. And then, of course, they all come after me. The media comes after me. It's just a brutal experience to do a job that pays terribly. And I don't know. I just learned you gotta be doing it for other reasons. And for me, it was great, but a very ego-destroying experience, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think like politics has to be done for the love of the game. I mean, it's almost like, I almost feel like, yeah, it's tough. I mean, because they don't pay that much. So it's like, there's just such an incentive to use the job to make money, you know?
Yeah, that's like the sad thing. And then you just take abuse. I mean, it's just kind of a crazy situation these days where you have to be something sadomasochistic about yourself to do it. Like Boris Johnson just left as prime minister. I mean, something about you I must enjoy somehow of just getting slated all the time. I'm not quite sure what it is, but
well,
yeah.
You have to just be doing it for the right reasons, I think, you know?
Yeah, and that's rare.
If you're doing it for the love of the game, if you're doing it because you want to like make a positive difference, whatever, then I think it's easier to deal with a lot of that shit, you know?
And so the next 10 years for you, maybe political office at some point. Obviously, Ignite is really ramping up, and contrary to the rumors that you're not going bankrupt and all that other crazy stuff, which I rarely read that stuff actually, but you guys are expanding globally.
Well, no, it's not anymore. I mean, I think these retards realize. I mean, this is like 3 years ago. Right? 3 years ago, I was fucking broke. I mean, it's like, you know, like I don't think these idiots understand. Like, I put $25 million of my own money in Ignite. Like, just fucking operating a jet every year is $2 million. Like, I just don't think people like, you know, I don't know. It's just strange. Like, the company lost $50 million. Like, okay, so fucking what? You know, big deal. Like, we've done over 100 million in fucking vape sales alone. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like companies when they start off fucking lose money. Like Uber lost like fucking what, $5 billion in a quarter or some shit. You know, like. That's how it works. Like usually when you're starting off a company and you're doing marketing and you're fucking trying to create a worldwide brand, like you got to spend some money. And obviously you don't come out of the gates with fucking blockbuster sales. You got to like get shelf space. It's the whole process, right? So, you know, just people are just so ignorant, you know, but at the end of the day, I think it really comes down to like YouTube clickbait, and these people, they'll just put anything on their fucking, you know, on their title to get people to watch the videos, you know? So it's one of those things where, if they can just put anything they want and operate with impunity and nobody ever does anything about it and there's no real like recourse, then, you know, it's just like the media. They'll just put up false bullshit, and worst case scenario, they have to print a retraction, but there's no financial penalty. Like there's no consequences. So we've gotten into a world where it's just say whatever you have to say to get people to watch. And that's kind of a dangerous, scary place, especially when, like, you know, you're coming up, like, you know, when you and I grew up, like, we believed the news. You know what I mean? If something was in the newspaper, we thought it was true. You know, there was like accountability, like journalists had integrity. But now, like, the, you know, the internet and all that, it's like, it's just gotten so clickbaity, and, you know, also with the media just becoming so political and so polarized, and the liberals just really dominating the press and Hollywood, and just these narratives that are coming out. It's like, man, it's a strange time, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, they want you to apologize for being white. Like Coca-Cola had training on how to be less white. Can you imagine a more racist thing? Like, here's how you determine if something's racist: is if you flipped it around, would there be outrage? So let's imagine, you know, Nike or Coca-Cola has training on how to be less black. Can you imagine? Like, can you fucking imagine? Or how to be less Mexican? Like, can you fucking imagine? Like, people's heads would explode, right? But like, oh, it's fine, you know, how to be less white. That's totally okay. It's like, it's fucking nonsense. Like,
it's madness, and it's going to get worse before it gets better, probably.
I don't know, man. The pendulum's kind of swinging a little bit back, I think. But yeah, it's strange. There's just such a lack of accountability these days, and this victim mentality, which is, if you watch any of these like self-help gurus, they preach, you know, vehemently against being victim mentality.
Yeah.
But now they're perpetuating it, and they're encouraging it, because now it's like, the more victim categories you're a member of, like, the more credibility you have. It's like a crazy thing that they've developed now.
Yeah, when you and I were growing up, we would always celebrate the hero and the winner. And these days, it's like you celebrate the victim, and you build in this whole society of people that can just take an easy way out and be like, oh, I'm the victim, and then they'll get the attention. It's a strange dynamic, a dangerous dynamic. And then, but like you said, the pendulum swinging. We have other people that are being celebrated for coming out against that. And so it feels like there's a bit of a pushback, you know, even on some tech channels and some media channels. So yeah, I don't know where it's going to go. But it's all wrapped up as well. It's like a lot of weird things going on with, you know, the family unit and male, female, and like race, and then cancel culture. It's like, it's just a weird dynamic.
Yeah, it's like a disease. It's like affected fucking the world. It's so crazy.
And so for you, it's Ignite, taking it to the next level. Politics later. You're on a hedonistic tip right now for the next little while, so you're enjoying yourself. And what else?
I got a trip planned. I'm going to Colombia, Brazil, South Africa, and then I think somewhere in Europe, and then I'm ending in Germany and Iceland on the way home. So that's going to be, I think, early next month. But until then, probably just, you know, chilling, doing some work, training.
Okay. Any ayahuasca ceremonies in there?
No, man, I'm a little scared of that, dude. I've heard of people kind of like not coming out the other side the same, you know, in a bad way. And thought of shitting yourself and doing something for 12 hours. I don't know, man. It's a bit aggressive. I feel like I get a lot from mushrooms, from K, done a little DMT, done peyote. 12 hours is a lot, man.
It's not 12 hours. It's not. But first of all, if you're scared of it,
right?
Now, for me, it's 3 hours before I drink it to where.
Ayahuasca?
I mean, 3 hours before I drink it. 3 hours later, I can recognize reality. Now, maybe there might be another hour or two where I'm still laying in the Malacca and I got to go back to my hut, but it's not 12 hours. It's just not.
Really?
Yeah. And no one's ever died from it. Okay, there's always somebody who then got, you know, killed later by the weird shaman who was the, you know, whatever, predator. But
no, not that.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about like people committing suicide or like really fucking up their lives or shit like that, where they like come out and they're just not the same person.
I mean, look, you know, there's people that sometimes are on SSRIs and they shouldn't be, but like, look, I think it's in your future in the next couple of years is all I got to say. And for me, I played around with the mushrooms for a while. I did the heroic dose, 4 or 5 grams. But then when I went back to the ayahuasca after taking 5 years off, man, I just sat in that ceremony and I thought, this is the mother. This is the mother of all psychedelics. And this is where I get my lessons. I hadn't been back in 4 years. I did 3 ceremonies. One of them was the single most profound experience in my whole life. I go to a place in Costa Rica, so I'm not in the middle of the crazy jungle that takes everything over in Peru. But it's something worth doing. What I would say is it will probably take a little while to put those things into practice. So give yourself a few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't say no. I don't say never to anything anymore. So it's possible. I mean, yeah, I think probably going heavier. You don't think going heavier in the mushrooms is similar?
It's similar, but it's just not the same. That's what I would say. It's similar, but there's something about that ayahuasca that just taps into something just bigger. When I'm at the end of that ceremony, I'm literally given like lessons, like 6 or 8 distinct lessons, and they are reviewed, and they're like, I'm going to do this and this and this and this. I don't get that with the mushrooms. I get a lot of realizations. I get joy. I get sadness. I get lots, but I don't get this message, and I do with her. So, just some thoughts.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'll leave that with you. I made a whole movie about it. I'll send you a link.
I've heard good things.
Yeah, look, there's a right place and time. It'll call you when you're ready for it. So, look, we're gonna have to sit down in person and continue this conversation at some point. If people want to buy the setup, and again, we went through probably about half of it. We didn't get through the poker career and the trust fund and all this other good stuff that you set the record straight on. And I love how you went into the details as well. That's a beautiful thing about a book. And I'm sure Goggins talked to you about that because he documented everything, right? So then it's all out there. How can people get a copy?
It's on ignite.co.
Okay.
So.
And if they want Ignite stuff to go there as well, and it'll be in their country very soon, if not now.
Yeah, hopefully so. I didn't go the traditional publisher route with the book, so I self-published, and I did not agree to their slave-ass contract of they get 85% of the money. That just fucking didn't with me.
They probably would have canceled you as well, right? So.
Yeah, exactly.
Lastly, just to wrap up, what do you think the message is of this book? What do you think your message is at the end of the day?
I think the most important message is the difference between pleasure and happiness, and that hedonistic things go down the road of pleasure, which is a bit of a dead end road. You can keep upping the bar to a certain point, but I got to a point where I couldn't up the bar. More was not better. I actually got to the point where it was, counterproductive. So there is an end to the pleasure road. Most people don't ever get near it, but I actually got to the end of the road. And yeah, it was less fulfilling than most would expect. I mean, I'm not saying the rock star journey isn't fun and people wouldn't enjoy it for a period of time, but to have that as a goal, I don't think is going to give people any kind of like long-term happiness. In fact, I would guarantee that it doesn't. And it kind of numbs you a little bit, like if you have too much pleasure, it's kind of like, doing a shitload of drugs. It's kind of hard to get like that happy doing regular stuff. So you almost have to like reset yourself. But yeah, I think I'm one of the few people that can kind of like tell people that from a position of experience. A lot of people, listen, my parents told me a bunch of things when I was younger that were probably true, but I didn't fucking listen, because my parents. But, this is something that I have an area of expertise in, and I don't know. I just felt like it wasn't the answer. So I'm still fucking around. I'm still fucking pleasure seeking, still doing it, but it's not going to last for that much longer. I'm pretty much at the end of the road. You backslide a little bit, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but yeah, I think it's something that it'll burn you out. If you focus on hedonism, it's not going to make you happy. That's what the message of the book would probably be. I mean, it's going to be some fucking good time, be some adventure and some fun, and there's a fucking lot of it in there. But at the end of the day, I don't think that that's what people should focus on.
Is there a future version of you that's like, a monk in a monastery, or a completely different version of Dan?
It's not out of the realm of possibility.
That would surprise a lot of people.
I've just done it, man. Like, I've done it fucking all. Like, I'm one of the few people that I remember being 33 years old and feeling like I've done every fucking thing that I wanted to do pretty much, And so here we are, almost 10 years later. I mean, still got stuff that I want to do. There's a few mountains I want to climb, but I don't know. I mean, I could definitely see myself taking a hard right and having kids and focusing on that and, kind of leaving it behind. But it's been a fun fucking ride, man. I'm not gonna lie and say that.
Yeah, that parental journey will take you on a right-hand curve, but it sounds like something that's in your cards for the future at some point. So, yeah. Dan, really appreciate the time. I think this is the best interview I've ever done, to be honest. I think we just got a real candid view of you and all your thoughts. So, really appreciate the time. And let's do this in person again soon. Really enjoyed the book. I think people will be really surprised with how candid you are and who you are, because most people get the one-dimensional or two-dimensional version of you, and the book kind of explains a lot about you. And there's a lot of details here, including stuff like, you helping out in Hurricane Katrina and you being there at the Vegas shooting and all these little things that never get mentioned that show a lot about your character. So thanks for writing it. And thanks for also not acquiescing to the powers that try to get us to do things that we know aren't right. That's really important. So thanks for that.
I know you of all people can appreciate that one.
Oh yeah, we can do it. And again, I saw a lot of people in 2020, a lot of famous people that quietly ducked out. And and I saw a lot of people continuing to stand up, and I do really appreciate that. And we need those people, and it'll shape our future. So yeah, thanks for doing that and keep speaking out. And man, it's been really good to get to know you, and to be continued.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you, brother.
All right, brother. Appreciate you. Thanks so much. Get the setup, ignite.co. Check him out. Dan Bilzerian. We'll see you next time in person. All right. Peace, brother.